Open this door, Sierra. Open it now. The sound of Damien's fist slamming against the bedroom door echoed through the Beverly Hills mansion like gunshots. Sierra Williams sat with her back pressed against the locked door, her whole body shaking. The silk nightgown he bought her clung to her skin, damp with sweat and fear. "Damien, please." Her voice came out as barely a whisper. "I'm so exhausted. I just need to sleep. Please let me sleep." "You think you can lock me out?" His voice dropped to something more dangerous than anger, something cold and controlled. "In my house? I own every room in this mansion, Sierra. Including that one. Including you." The door shook so violently that Sierra flinched, pulling her knees tighter to her chest. 4 months. She'd survived 4 months of this hell. 4 months since she'd said "I do" to this man and discovered that the charming billionaire was actually a monster wearing a perfect suit. Her phone screen glowed on the floor beside her. Jasmine's last text read, "Girl, please call me. I'm worried about you." But how could she explain this to anyone? How could she admit that she'd sold herself into a nightmare for money? That every night felt like a battle she could never win? "Sierra." Damien's voice softened now, which was somehow worse than the anger. "My love, you know how this ends. You always open the door eventually. Don't make this harder than it has to be." Tears streamed down Sierra's face because he was right. She always opened the door. Because the contract said she had to. Because her mother's life depended on this marriage. Because she'd signed away 12 months of her life, and she still had 8 months, 2 weeks, and 4 days left to survive. "Open it now," Damien said, his voice honey-sweet, "and I'll be gentle. Make me break it down." He paused, letting the threat hang in the air. "And I won't be." Sierra's trembling hand reached for the lock. But before we get to what happened next, before we see how this desperate woman ended up trapped in a mansion with a man who treated her like property, you need to understand how Sierra Williams got here. You need to understand what desperation can make a good person do. You need to understand how a woman agrees to marry the devil himself. 4 months earlier, the fluorescent lights in Cedars-Sinai Medical Center's oncology ward hummed like a funeral march. Sierra had been sitting in that uncomfortable plastic chair for 6 hours straight, holding her mother's hand and pretending everything was going to be okay. But nothing was okay. Diane Williams lay in the hospital bed, looking like a ghost of herself. At 54, she should have been planning her retirement from teaching, maybe taking that trip to Hawaii she'd always talked about. Instead, stage 4 breast cancer had stolen her strength, her energy, her future. "Baby, you need to go home and rest," Diane said weakly, her voice barely above a whisper. "You've been here for days." Sierra forced a smile, though her eyes burned with exhaustion. "I'm exactly where I need to be, Mama." "You lying to me and yourself." Diane managed a small smile. "You got bags under your eyes big enough to pack groceries in." Sierra laughed despite the tears threatening to spill. This was what her mother did, made jokes even when she was dying, tried to make everyone else feel better even when she was the one suffering. The door opened and Dr. Hassan walked in with that expression doctors get when they're about to ruin your life. Professional sympathy. "Ms. Williams, Mrs. Williams." He nodded at them both. "I have the results from yesterday's scans." Sierra's stomach dropped to her feet. "The cancer has metastasized to the liver and lungs. At this stage, our conventional treatment options are extremely limited." The words hit Sierra like physical blows. Metastasized. Limited options. She could barely breathe. "What about," Sierra's voice shook, "what about that clinical trial you mentioned last month? The immunotherapy program?" Dr. Hassan's expression shifted slightly. Not quite hopeful, but not entirely hopeless either. "The experimental treatment at our research center has shown promising results for patients with similar presentations. The protocol could potentially give Mrs. Williams anywhere from 5 to 10 additional years of quality life." "Then that's what we do." Sierra sat forward, gripping her mother's hand tighter. "Sign her up. We'll start immediately." "Sierra, baby, wait," Diane tried to interrupt. "Unfortunately," Dr. Hassan continued carefully, "this is an experimental protocol. Insurance won't cover it. The full treatment, including the immunotherapy infusions, hospital stays, monitoring and follow-up care, would cost approximately $600,000. The room tilted. $600,000. Sierra didn't even have $600 in her checking account. She'd burned through her small savings paying for the treatments insurance wouldn't cover. She'd taken unpaid leave from her event planning job to be here with her mother. Diane's Social Security barely covered the rent on their small South Central apartment. $600,000 might as well have been $600 million. Absolutely not. Diane's voice was firm despite her weakness. We are not discussing this. Mama. Sierra Elizabeth Williams, I said no. Diane squeezed her hand with what little strength she had left. That's an impossible amount of money. I won't let you destroy your life trying to save mine. But there's a chance. Baby, look at me. Diane's eyes filled with tears. I have lived a good life. I raised a beautiful, strong, brilliant daughter. I have no regrets. But you, she touched Sierra's face. You have your whole life ahead of you. You're 27 years old. You should be planning your future, not bankrupting yourself for a treatment that might not even work. I can't just give up on you. Sierra's voice cracked completely. It's not giving up. It's being realistic. It's me protecting my child the same way I always have. Dr. Hassan cleared his throat gently. I'll give you two some time to discuss options. But Ms. Williams, if you're considering the experimental treatment, we'd need to begin within the next 2 to 3 weeks for optimal effectiveness. After he left, Sierra laid her head on her mother's chest and cried. Really cried. The kind of breakdown she'd been holding back for weeks. It's okay, baby, Diane whispered, stroking her hair. It's gonna be okay. But it wasn't okay. Nothing was okay. Sierra was about to lose the only family she had, and there wasn't a damn thing she could do about it. Or so she thought. 1 week later, Sierra stood in the grand ballroom of the Beverly Wilshire Hotel, coordinating the most extravagant tech industry gala she'd ever worked on. Crystal chandeliers sparkled overhead. Tables were set with centerpieces that cost more than her monthly rent. Women dripped in diamonds. Men wore tuxedos that probably cost more than her car. She should have called in sick. Should have stayed in LA with her mother. But she needed every dollar from this job, even though it wouldn't make a dent in the $600,000 she needed. Sierra was checking the seating arrangements when someone bumped into her from behind, sending champagne splashing all over her white blouse. Damn it, she muttered, grabbing napkins from the nearest table. I am so sorry. The voice was deep, smooth, apologetic. Sierra looked up and her breath caught. The man standing in front of her was absolutely gorgeous. Tall, at least 6'3", with dark hair that had just enough silver at the temples to make him look distinguished. Steel gray eyes that seemed to see right through her. A jaw that could cut glass. And a tuxedo that fit him so perfectly it had to be custom-made. It's fine, really, Sierra said quickly, dabbing at her blouse. Hazard of the job. Still, I should watch where I'm going. His eyes studied her face with an intensity that made her uncomfortable. Not creepy, just focused. Like she was the only person in the room. You work for the event company? Yes, sir. I'm coordinating tonight's gala. Damien Cross. He extended his hand. Sierra's heart nearly stopped. Damien Cross. The Damien Cross. CEO of Crosstech Industries, one of the biggest AI and cybersecurity companies in the world. Billionaire. Silicon Valley legend. The guest of honor tonight. Sierra Williams. She shook his hand, trying not to show how starstruck she was. It's an honor, Mr. Cross. I hope everything is to your satisfaction. It's perfect. But he wasn't looking at the decorations. He was looking at her. How long have you been doing event planning? About 5 years. You're very good at it. Everything tonight is flawless. He paused. Are you from LA? Born and raised. South Central. His eyebrows rose slightly. Long way from South Central to the Beverly Wilshire. That's kind of the point, isn't it? Work hard, get out, make something of yourself. Damien smiled, a real smile that reached his eyes and transformed his whole face from intimidating to devastating. I like that. I grew up in a trailer park in Nevada. Built Crosstech from nothing. I respect people who fight their way up. They talked for another 15 minutes. About LA, about building something from nothing, about the tech industry, about her job. Damien was charming, funny, genuinely interested in what she had to say. For those 15 minutes, Sierra forgot about her mother dying in a hospital bed. Forgot about the impossible medical bills. Forgot about everything except this magnetic man who made her feel like she mattered. Then his assistant appeared, whispered something in his ear, and Damien's expression shifted to business mode. I have to give a speech, he said, looking genuinely disappointed. But Sierra Williams, I'd like to continue this conversation. May I have your number? Sierra hesitated for exactly 1 second. Rich men didn't chase down event coordinators. This was probably just billionaire charm, something he did with every woman who caught his eye. But Jasmine's voice echoed in her head from their last conversation. Girl, you need something good to happen. You deserve something good. Maybe this was it. Maybe this was the universe throwing her a lifeline. She gave him her number. As she watched him walk away to the stage, confident, powerful, magnetic, Sierra felt something she hadn't felt in weeks. Hope. She had no idea she'd just met the man who would save her mother's life and nearly destroy her own. 3 days later, Sierra was back in her mother's hospital room, staring at a stack of medical bills she couldn't pay, when her phone rang. Unknown Los Angeles number. Hello. Sierra Williams. That voice. Deep, smooth, unmistakable. It's Damien Cross. From the gala. Her heart did a stupid little flip. Mr. Cross. Hi. I didn't expect to hear from you. I told you I wanted to continue our conversation. She could hear the smile in his voice. Are you free for dinner tomorrow night? Sierra looked at her mother sleeping peacefully, the monitors beeping steadily beside her bed. Looked at the bills. Looked at her reflection in the dark window, exhausted, broke, desperate. I'm actually back in LA right now. Family emergency. A pause. Is everything all right? Something in his tone, genuine concern, made her throat tighten. My mother. She's sick. I'm sorry to hear that. Another pause. When do you return to work? I don't know. Maybe never. The words slipped out before she could stop them. I might need to stay here with her. Sierra. His voice dropped, became more intimate. Can I be forward with you? Yes. I haven't been able to stop thinking about you since the gala. I'd like to see you again. And if you need to be in LA right now, then I'll come to you. Sierra's breath caught. You'd fly to LA? Just for dinner? I'd fly anywhere for you. It was a line. Had to be a line. Billionaires didn't fly across the state for women they'd met once at an event. But God, it was a good line. Okay, she heard herself say. Okay, yes. Tomorrow night. I'll text you the details. He paused again. Sierra, whatever you're going through, you don't have to go through it alone. After they hung up, Sierra sat there staring at her phone like it might explode. Jasmine's voice in her head. Girl, when was the last time a man made you feel like this? Never. The answer was never. Damien took her to Nobu Malibu, the kind of restaurant Sierra had only read about in magazines. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooked the Pacific Ocean. The sunset painted the sky in oranges and purples. The menu didn't even have prices on it. Damien was already seated when she arrived, standing immediately when he saw her. Sierra had borrowed a dress from Jasmine, nothing fancy, but it was the best she had. Next to Damien in his perfectly tailored suit, she felt like a kid playing dress-up. But when he looked at her, his eyes said she was the most beautiful woman in the room. You look stunning, he said, pulling out her chair. You're a terrible liar, but thank you. He laughed, a real laugh that made her feel warm inside. I never lie. It's inefficient. They ordered, or rather, Damien ordered the chef's tasting menu, and Sierra tried not to think about how much this one meal probably cost. Tried not to calculate how many of her mother's medical bills it could pay. Tell me about your mother, Damien said once the first course arrived. And just like that, the dam broke. Sierra found herself telling him everything. The cancer. The experimental treatment. The $600,000. The impossible choice between watching her mother die or drowning in debt for a treatment that might not even work. 600,000, she finished quietly, her voice cracking. It might as well be 600 million. Damien was silent for a long moment, those steel-gray eyes studying her face. What would you do, he said carefully, if someone offered you that money? Sierra laughed bitterly. Depends on what they wanted in return. There's always a catch, right? Smart woman. He took a sip of wine. What if the catch was marriage? Sierra's fork froze halfway to her mouth. I'm sorry, what? A business arrangement. You marry me for 1 year. I pay for your mother's treatment, all of it, plus her living expenses, plus a salary for you of $50,000 a month. At the end of 12 months, we divorce amicably, and you walk away with an additional $600,000. The restaurant spun. Sierra set down her fork carefully, afraid she might drop it. Is this a joke? I don't joke about business. Damien leaned forward. I need a wife for optics. My board of directors thinks I'm too much of a playboy, that it's affecting investor confidence. There are deals I can't close, partnerships I can't secure, because I'm seen as unstable and uncommitted. A wife fixes that problem immediately. You could marry anyone. Why me? Because you need something only I can provide. That makes the arrangement clean. Transactional. No messy feelings. No unrealistic expectations. His eyes held hers. And because I genuinely like you, Sierra. You're intelligent, beautiful, and you can handle yourself in my world. You proved that at the gala. Sierra's mind raced. This was insane. Absolutely insane. People didn't actually do this outside of movies. What would you expect from me? Her voice was barely a whisper. In public, you'd be the perfect wife. Attend events with me, smile for cameras, play the part convincingly. In private. He paused. You'd live with me in my home. Share my space. My life. And yes, my bed. There it was. The catch. So I'd be your wife for real. For 12 months. Then you're free, your mother is healthy, and you have over $1 million to start whatever life you want. Sierra's throat was so tight she could barely breathe. I need to think about it. Of course. Damien pulled a business card from his pocket, wrote something on the back, and slid it across the table. My personal number. Call me when you decide. The rest of dinner was a blur. Damien was charming, attentive, perfect. He made her laugh. Made her forget, just for a few hours, about the nightmare waiting for her at the hospital. When he dropped her off at Diane's apartment that night, he caught her hand before she could get out of his sleek black Tesla. Sierra. I meant what I said earlier. Whatever you're going through, you don't have to do it alone. She looked at him, this beautiful, powerful man who was offering her everything she needed, and felt something dangerous bloom in her chest. Hope mixed with attraction mixed with desperation. A recipe for disaster. Thank you for tonight, she whispered. The pleasure was entirely mine. She watched his car drive away and knew, she already knew, what her answer would be. Jasmine nearly dropped her phone when Sierra told her. He wants to what? Marry me. For a year. For over $1 million total plus mom's treatment. Girl, that is the most pretty woman indecent proposal, 50 shades of crazy I have ever heard. Jasmine's voice rose with each word. You cannot be seriously considering this. Sierra sat on Diane's worn couch, staring at Damien's business card. Mom's dying, Jazz. I know, honey, but... No. Sierra's voice cracked. She's dying. The doctor said she has maybe 6 months without treatment. With the experimental protocol, she could have 10 more years. 10 years. And there's a way to make that happen, and I'm just supposed to say no because it's unconventional. Silence on the other end. Then quieter, what does he want from you? To be his wife. Really his wife. For 12 months. Sierra, you barely know this man. I know he can save my mother's life. I know he's successful and powerful and respected. I know when he looks at me, I feel. She trailed off. Oh no. Jasmine's voice dropped. You like him, don't you? Sierra's silence was answer enough. Oh, honey. That makes this so much worse. Maybe it makes it better. Maybe. Sierra's voice dropped to a whisper. Maybe this could actually turn into something real. Or maybe you're about to get your heart broken while playing wife to a billionaire who sees you as a business transaction. Sierra, please think about this. But Sierra had already made up her mind. She'd stayed up all night thinking about it. About her mother's face when she'd said she'd lived a good life. About the medical bills stacking up. About the clock ticking down on Diane's life. About Damien's smile. His kindness. The way he'd looked at her like she mattered. What life do I have without Mom, Jazz? My job is barely keeping me afloat, I have no other family, I'm drowning in debt. At least this way, something good comes out of all this pain. Jasmine sighed heavily. If you do this, and I mean if, you call me every single day. You keep me in the loop. And the second, something feels wrong, you get out. Contract or no contract. I promise. After they hung up, Sierra stared at the business card for another hour. Then she called Damien. I'll do it, she said without preamble. I'll marry you. A pause. You're sure? I'm sure. Then I'll have my lawyers draw up the contract. Your mother's treatment starts immediately. I'll have my people coordinate with her doctors today. The wedding will be in 2 weeks. Damien. Yes. Thank you. For this. For saving her. Sierra. His voice softened. I think we're going to be good together. After they hung up, Sierra sat in the dark apartment and let herself imagine it. A year with Damien Cross. Playing the role of a billionaire's wife. Living in luxury. Attending galas and events. Maybe falling in love. Maybe finding happiness in this unconventional arrangement. She had no idea that Damien Cross had very different plans. She had no idea that every smile, every kind word, every moment of connection had been carefully calculated. She had no idea that Damien had been exactly where she was once, desperate and in love and willing to do anything. Until the woman he loved destroyed him. And now, he was going to return the favor. To every woman who reminded him of Natasha Sterling. Starting with Sierra Williams. The contract arrived by courier 3 days later. 29 pages of legal language that basically said, Sierra Williams agrees to marry Damien Cross for 12 months, perform all duties of a wife both in public and private, maintain absolute confidentiality, and in return receives $600,000 upfront for medical expenses, $50,000 monthly allowance, all living expenses covered. Additional $600,000 upon successful completion of contract. Breach of contract results in immediate termination, return of all funds, and legal penalties. Sierra's hands shook as she read it. This was real. This was actually happening. Her lawyer, a friend of Jasmine's who worked pro bono, reviewed it carefully. It's ironclad, she said. Once you sign this, you're committed for 12 months. He can't break the contract, but neither can you. Not without losing everything and facing lawsuits. What about the all duties of a wife part? The lawyer's face was grim. That's deliberately vague. Legally, it could mean anything. Attending events, managing his household, or more intimate obligations. So I'd be trapped. For 12 months, yes. But Sierra, she leaned forward. Are you absolutely sure about this? This man has a reputation. He's ruthless in business. There are rumors. What kind of rumors? That he's been married before. More than once. Quick marriages that end in quiet divorces. No one knows the details, but... She trailed off. Just be careful. After the lawyer left, Sierra stared at the contract for hours. Previous marriages. Quiet divorces. Red flags. Huge, waving red flags. But then her phone buzzed. A photo from the hospital, Diane in bed, smiling despite her exhaustion, giving a thumbs up. The text read, First immunotherapy infusion today. Damien's team already got me started. Baby, I'm going to beat this thing. Sierra looked at the contract, looked at her mother's smile, and signed her name. They got married at LA City Hall on a Tuesday morning. No guests. No fanfare. No white dress or flower arrangements or emotional vows. Just Sierra in a simple cream-colored dress Damien had sent over, and Damien in a charcoal suit that probably cost more than her car. The officiant was a bored-looking woman who'd probably done 50 weddings that week. Do you, Sierra Elizabeth Williams, take Damien Jonathan Cross to be your lawfully wedded husband? Sierra looked into those steel-gray eyes and thought about her mother getting treatment. Thought about 10 more years of birthdays and holidays and ordinary moments. I do. And do you, Damien Jonathan Cross, take Sierra Elizabeth Williams to be your lawfully wedded wife? For just a second, so brief Sierra thought she imagined it, something dark flickered across Damien's face. Something cold and calculating. But it was gone so fast, replaced by that charming smile she'd come to know. I do. By the power vested in me by the state of California, I now pronounce you husband and wife. You may kiss the bride. Damien pulled her close and kissed her, and for one perfect moment, Sierra let herself believe this could be real. That maybe this arrangement could turn into something more. That maybe she'd found not just a way to save her mother, but a way to save herself. The kiss was gentle, sweet, perfect. It was the last gentle moment she would have for 4 months. They went straight to the Cross estate after the ceremony, a sprawling modern mansion in Beverly Hills that looked like something out of Architectural Digest. 15,000 square feet of glass and steel and cold, minimalist perfection. Welcome home, Mrs. Cross, Damien said, and there was something in his voice that made Sierra's skin prickle. He poured them both champagne. They toasted. Sierra was nervous, giddy, hopeful. Damien was charming, attentive, perfect. And then they stepped into the master bedroom. The moment the door closed, Damien's entire demeanor shifted. The warmth drained from his eyes. His smile became something sharp and cruel. His whole body language changed from gentle to predatory. Take off the dress, he said. Not a request. A command. Sierra's stomach dropped. Damien, I thought maybe we should talk first. We're done talking. He loosened his tie, his eyes never leaving her face. You signed a contract, Sierra. You're my wife now. That means what's mine is mine. And you, he stepped closer, crowding her space. You belong to me. I don't understand. Don't you? He grabbed her chin, forcing her to look at him. You really thought this was a fairy tale? That I was Prince Charming coming to rescue the poor girl from South Central? Tears burned in Sierra's eyes. You said. I said what I needed to say to get you here. And now you're here. In my house. With my ring on your finger and my name on your contract. His voice dropped to something vicious. Did you really think a man like me needs to pay for a wife unless there's something else he wants? What do you want? Sierra whispered. Damien smiled, and it was the cruelest thing she'd ever seen. I want you to suffer, he said simply. I want you to know what it feels like to be owned. To be used. To give everything to someone who sees you as nothing but property. He released her chin. Someone broke me once, Sierra. Shattered me into pieces. And I decided, never again. Never again would I be the fool. Never again would I be the one left bleeding. So you're going to hurt me instead? Sierra's voice shook. Because someone hurt you? Exactly. He started unbuttoning his shirt. 5 years ago, I was engaged to a woman named Natasha Sterling. I worshipped her. We were 3 days from the wedding when I found her in bed with my business partner. They'd been planning to destroy me for months. She was feeding him confidential information, helping him steal my deals. The wedding was just her exit strategy. He pulled off his shirt, his eyes never leaving Sierra's terrified face. After that, I realized, love is a weapon. Vulnerability is weakness. So I decided to flip the script. To be the one in control. The one who hurts instead of being hurt. He stepped closer. You wanted to save your mother. Congratulations. You succeeded. But the price? He reached out and stroked her cheek. The price is you. Sierra stood there, frozen, as the full horror of what she'd done crashed over her. She hadn't married a man. She'd married a monster. And she'd signed a contract that gave him legal right to keep her for 12 months. Now, Damien said softly, dangerously, I'm going to tell you this once, and only once. You have two choices. You can fight me every step of the way, make this as difficult as possible, and I promise you, I will make your life a living hell. Or you can accept your situation, play the role you signed up for, and when this year is over, you walk away with your money and your mother gets to live. He tilted her chin up again. What's it going to be, Mrs. Cross? Sierra's whole body trembled. She thought about the contract, about the breach clause, about her mother in that hospital bed, finally getting treatment. She thought about the fact that she was trapped. Completely and utterly trapped. I'll play the role, she whispered. Good girl. Damien smiled. Now take off the dress. What would you do if you discovered the person you married was planning to hurt you all along? Would you stay for the contract? Or would you risk everything, including your mother's life, to escape? The first night set the pattern for everything that followed. Damien was insatiable, demanding, cold. He took what he wanted when he wanted it, and Sierra's exhaustion, her tears, her whispered pleas for rest, none of it mattered. You're my wife, he'd say, his voice flat and emotionless. This is what you signed up for. I need to sleep. You'll sleep when I say you can sleep. By morning, Sierra felt like she'd been through a war. Every muscle ached. Her eyes were swollen from crying. She stood in the marble shower letting scalding water pour over her, trying to wash away the feeling of his hands, his control, his ownership. When she emerged, Damien was already dressed in a perfectly tailored suit, looking fresh and powerful, like the night had cost him nothing. I have meetings all day, he said, adjusting his tie. Carmen will show you around the house. The driver will take you anywhere you need to go, but you need to clear it with me first. Clear it with you? You're my wife now, Sierra. I need to know where you are at all times. He walked over and kissed her forehead, a gesture that would have looked loving to anyone watching, but felt like branding to Sierra. I'll be home for dinner at 7. Make sure you're ready. And then he was gone, leaving Sierra alone in a mansion that felt more like a prison. Carmen Rodriguez appeared an hour later, a woman in her early 40s with kind brown eyes and an efficiency that spoke of years managing wealthy households. Mrs. Cross, she said with a small smile. I'm Carmen, head of household staff. Mr. Cross asked me to give you a tour of the estate. Please call me Sierra. Of course. This way. The tour was overwhelming. 15,000 square feet. 8 bedrooms. 10 bathrooms. Home gym. Wine cellar. Infinity pool overlooking LA. Every room was perfectly designed, perfectly decorated, perfectly cold. It's beautiful, Sierra said, because it was. But it felt like a museum, not a home. Mr. Cross prefers minimalism, Carmen said diplomatically. Though I imagine you might want to add some warmth to the space. I doubt he'd allow that. Carmen glanced at her sharply, and Sierra realized she'd said too much. She forced a smile. I just mean, I'm sure he has specific tastes. I don't want to change anything without asking. Of course. But there was something in Carmen's eyes, understanding maybe. Or pity. The days developed a rhythm. A terrible, suffocating rhythm. Damien left for work at 6 a.m. Sierra had the house to herself until he returned at 7 p.m., sometimes later. During the day, she could pretend to be free. She could paint in the art studio he'd set up, though she never asked him to. She could swim in the pool. She could video call her mother, who was responding beautifully to treatment and had no idea her daughter was dying inside. But the nights were hell. Damien was relentless. Sometimes gentle, sometimes rough, always demanding. It didn't matter if Sierra was exhausted, didn't matter if she asked for a break, didn't matter if she cried. He told her the rules on their wedding night. She could fight every step and make it worse, or she could accept it and survive. Sierra chose survival. She stopped saying no. Stopped fighting. Just disappeared inside herself during those hours, letting her mind drift somewhere else while her body fulfilled the contract she'd signed. Damien had other rules too. No leaving the estate without permission. No visitors unless approved. Phone calls were allowed, but he'd prefer if she kept them brief and didn't worry her mother with unnecessary details. You can call Jasmine any time, he said one evening. I'm not a monster, Sierra. I know you need your friends. You are exactly a monster, she thought. But she just nodded. When she did call Jasmine, she lied. Said everything was fine. Said Damien was kind and attentive. Said married life was an adjustment, but she was happy. You don't sound happy, Jasmine said, concern thick in her voice. I'm just tired. It's a lot of change all at once. Girl, if something's wrong. Nothing's wrong. I promise. Another lie. I have to go. Damien's home. She hung up before Jasmine could press further. In public, Damien was the perfect husband. Their first event was a tech industry gala 2 weeks into the marriage. Sierra wore a dress he'd selected, a stunning emerald green gown that probably cost more than her mother's old car. Damien kept his hand on her lower back all night, steering her through crowds of billionaires and celebrities. "This is my wife, Sierra," he'd say, his voice warm with pride. "Isn't she stunning?" He'd kiss her temple, hold her hand, look at her like she was the most precious thing in his world. And Sierra would smile and play along, because that's what the contract required. "How did you two meet?" someone would ask. "At a gala I was coordinating," Sierra would say, sticking to the script they'd rehearsed. "He spilled champagne on me, and the rest is history." "Love at first sight," Damien would add, squeezing her hand just a little too tight. Everyone thought they were the perfect couple. The tech billionaire and his beautiful wife. A modern fairy tale. No one saw the bruises on her hips from his grip. No one heard her crying in the shower at 3 a.m. No one knew that Sierra was counting down the days, 341 to go, until she could escape. By the end of month 1, Sierra had lost 8 pounds. The dark circles under her eyes were so prominent that she had to use heavy concealer. Her hands shook when she thought no one was looking. Carmen noticed. One morning, Sierra came downstairs to find Carmen preparing breakfast in the massive kitchen. "Good morning, Mrs. Cross. Can I make you something to eat?" "Just coffee, please." Carmen studied her face. "You should eat something. You're getting too thin." "I'm fine." "With respect, ma'am, you're not." Sierra looked up sharply, but Carmen's expression held only concern, no judgment. "I've worked for Mr. Cross for 6 years, Carmen said quietly, setting a plate of fruit and toast in front of Sierra. "I've seen things. If you ever need anything at all, please know you can trust me." Sierra's throat tightened. She wanted to break down. Wanted to tell Carmen everything. But what could Carmen do? What could anyone do? Sierra had signed a contract. She'd taken the money. Her mother was getting treatment. She was trapped. "Thank you," Sierra whispered. "But I'm fine." "Really?" Carmen nodded, but the concern didn't leave her eyes. If month 1 was hell, month 2 was somehow worse. Damien's demands increased. He'd wake her at 2 a.m., 3 a.m., 4 a.m., his hands already on her body, ignoring her exhaustion. "Damien, please, I haven't slept." "Neither have I." That's what marriage is, Sierra. Being available when your spouse needs you. "I'm so tired I can barely function." Then function better. She stopped sleeping more than 2 or 3 hours a night. Stopped eating regularly. Stopped recognizing herself in the mirror. Jasmine called, worried. "Sierra, you sound terrible. What's going on?" "Just adjusting to the schedule. Damien keeps crazy hours with work, and I'm trying to keep up." "This doesn't sound healthy." "I'm fine, Jazz. I have to go." She hung up before her best friend could hear her crying. In the middle of month 2, Sierra tried something desperate. She waited until Damien fell asleep after one of his late-night sessions, then quietly slipped out of bed and locked herself in the guest bedroom down the hall. Just for one night. Just to sleep. Just to have her body to herself for 8 uninterrupted hours. She set her phone to silent, curled up in the bed, and felt relief wash over her for the first time in weeks. She slept for maybe 2 hours before the pounding started. "Sierra, open this door." She jolted awake, her heart hammering. "I just want to sleep, Damien. Please. Just tonight." "You think you can lock me out? In my house?" His voice was pure fury. "You're my wife. You don't get to decide when you're done." He hit the door so hard the frame shook. I'm calling the police if you don't open this door right now. Sierra's blood ran cold. You wouldn't. Try me. I'll tell them my wife is having a mental breakdown. That I'm concerned for her safety. They'll believe me, Sierra. I'm Damien Cross. Who are you? She sat there trembling, knowing he was right. He had the power, the money, the influence. She had nothing. With shaking hands, she unlocked the door. Damien stood there in his robe, his eyes cold and hard. Don't ever do that again, he said quietly. This is your only warning. That night was the worst yet. And when it was over, when Damien finally fell asleep, Sierra lay awake staring at the ceiling, realizing something terrible. She couldn't survive 9 more months of this. Her spirit was breaking. Her body was breaking. And if something didn't change soon, there would be nothing left of Sierra Williams to save. Carmen saw everything. She saw the weight loss, the exhaustion, the way Sierra flinched when Damien touched her in public. She saw the forced smiles and hollow eyes. She'd seen it before. 6 years ago, Damien had employed a different housekeeper, a young woman named Maria. Carmen had been assistant housekeeper then. She'd watched Maria grow thinner, sadder, more withdrawn over the course of a year. When Maria's contract ended, she'd left without a word, took her money and disappeared. Carmen had asked Damien once, carefully, if everything was all right. Maria fulfilled her contract, he'd said. End of story. After that, Carmen learned to keep her head down, to do her job, to not ask questions. But watching Sierra suffer stirred something in her. Guilt, maybe. Or just human decency. She started paying closer attention. One morning, she found Sierra in the kitchen at 5 a.m., staring blankly at a cup of coffee with trembling hands. Mrs. Cross? Are you all right? Sierra looked up with dead eyes. I'm fine. You don't look fine. I said I'm fine. Sierra's voice cracked, and then she was crying, really crying, the kind of breakdown she'd been holding back for weeks. Carmen moved quickly, closing the kitchen door and sitting beside her. It's okay, she said softly. You're safe right now. Let it out. I can't do this anymore, Sierra sobbed. I can't. He won't let me sleep, won't let me breathe, won't let me exist as anything but his property, Carmen finished quietly. Sierra looked up, surprised. I've worked for Mr. Cross for 6 years, Carmen said. You're not the first wife I've seen suffer. There were others. 3 before you. Contract marriages, all of them. I didn't know the details, but... She trailed off. I should have said something, done something. But I was scared of losing my job. My daughter's college tuition. I understand, Sierra whispered. I get it. We all do what we have to do to survive. They sat in silence for a moment. How much longer do you have on your contract? Carmen asked. 10 months. Carmen's expression was grim. Can you make it 10 more months? I don't know. Sierra's voice was so small. I don't think I can. 3 weeks later, Sierra hit her absolute breaking point. Damien had woken her every 2 hours for 3 nights straight. She was so exhausted she'd nearly passed out at a charity luncheon. When they got home, she tried to go to the guest room to nap. Where do you think you're going? Damien had said. I just need an hour. You'll sleep when I say you can sleep. That night, after another brutal session, Sierra lay in bed staring at the ceiling while Damien slept peacefully beside her. She felt completely disconnected from her own body. Like she was watching herself from outside, and the woman in that bed was a stranger. I'm losing myself, she thought. In 10 months, even if I survive this, I won't recognize the person I've become. The next morning, she was crying in the bathroom when Carmen knocked softly. Mrs. Cross? May I come in? Sierra opened the door, no longer caring about hiding her pain. Carmen took one look at her and said, I need to show you something. She led Sierra to her small office off the kitchen and pulled out a card from her desk drawer. I have a friend, Carmen said carefully. She's a naturopathic doctor. Specializes in herbal remedies. I don't understand. Men like Mr. Cross, they're driven by control. And sometimes that control manifests as excessive physical demands. Carmen chose her words carefully. But there are natural supplements that can help. Things that calm the nervous system, reduce libido, help with sleep. Ashwagandha, valerian root, magnesium, all completely natural and safe. Sierra stared at her. You want me to drug him? Not drug. These are herbs, not medications. They're things people take every day for stress and sleep. They just make people calmer, more balanced, less aggressive. Carmen met her eyes. My ex-husband had similar issues. Not as bad as Mr. Cross, but bad enough. These supplements helped him become gentler. Helped us both survive our marriage until our daughter was old enough for me to leave. Did it work? It did. He became less demanding, slept better, was less intense about everything. It gave me breathing room. Sierra's hands shook as she took the card. If Damien found out. He won't. You just add a small amount to his morning smoothie. He makes one every day, right? Before the gym. Yes. It dissolves completely. No taste. No color. Just makes him tired and calmer over time. Carmen squeezed her hand. I know this is a huge ask. And I know it feels wrong. But Mrs. Cross, Sierra, you're dying in there. I can see it. And I can't watch another woman break under his control. Sierra looked at the card. Read the name, Dr. Elena Martinez, Naturopathic Medicine. It's really safe. Completely. These are things sold in health food stores. Nothing dangerous. Nothing that would hurt him. Just calm him down. Sierra thought about the 10 months ahead. About the sleepless nights and brutal demands. About the way she was disappearing piece by piece. Okay, she whispered. Okay, I'll try it. Carmen pulled her into a brief hug. You're stronger than you know. You're going to survive this. 3 days later, a package arrived at the estate. Plain brown packaging, no return address. Inside was a small glass jar filled with fine dark powder that smelled faintly of earth and bitter herbs. The note inside read, mix 1/4 teaspoon into liquid daily. Results typically appear within 3 to 5 days. All natural ingredients, ashwagandha, valerian root, magnesium citrate, L-theanine, passion flower. Safe for long-term use. Dr. Martinez. Sierra stared at the jar for a long time. This felt wrong. Felt like crossing a line she couldn't uncross. But then she heard Damien's car pulling up the driveway. Heard his footsteps. Felt her whole body tense in anticipation of another night she wouldn't survive intact. She hid the jar in the back of her bathroom cabinet behind her tampons, a place Damien would never look. That night was as brutal as all the others. Maybe worse. And when morning came, when Damien was in the shower and Sierra dragged herself to the kitchen, she watched him make his usual post-workout protein smoothie. Vanilla protein powder, almond milk, banana, spinach, all blended together into a thick chocolate-colored drink. Her hand shook as she reached for the jar hidden in her robe pocket. Just a 1/4 teaspoon, she told herself. It's just herbs. Just something to help him sleep better. To make him less aggressive. That's all. She measured it carefully. The powder was so fine it disappeared the moment it touched the liquid. Damien came into the kitchen, still damp from his shower, and grabbed the smoothie. Morning, he said, his tone neutral. Morning, Sierra whispered. She watched him drink it in 4 long gulps. Watched him set the glass in the sink. Watched him grab his briefcase and head for the door. I'll be late tonight. Dinner meeting with investors. Don't wait up. And then he was gone. Sierra stood alone in the kitchen, staring at the empty glass, wondering what she'd just done. Wondering if she'd just found a way to survive. Or if she'd just made everything so much worse. Nothing changed immediately. Day 1, Damien came home at midnight and woke her up as usual. She added the powder to his smoothie the next morning, her hand steadier this time. Day 2, same pattern. Another sleepless night. Another morning smoothie with herbs mixed in. Day 3. I'm exhausted, Damien said, surprising her at breakfast. Must be the stress from the merger talks. He came home at 7 p.m. instead of midnight. Ate dinner with her. Went to bed early. and slept through the entire night without touching her. Sierra lay awake in the darkness beside him, listening to his deep, even breathing, and felt something she hadn't felt in months. Hope. By the end of the first week, the changes were undeniable. Damien was coming home earlier. He was less demanding, still cold, still controlling, but the insatiable edge had dulled. Some nights he'd just kiss her forehead and fall asleep. Sierra could breathe again. Could eat. Could sleep 5, sometimes 6 hours a night. She stopped losing weight. The shaking in her hands calmed. She could think clearly for the first time since their wedding. "You look better," Carmen said one morning, her eyes knowing. "I feel better." "The supplements are working?" "Yes." Sierra's voice dropped to a whisper. "Thank you. You saved my life. You saved your own life. I just gave you a tool." But even as relief flooded through her, guilt gnawed at Sierra's chest. She was putting things in Damien's drinks without his knowledge. Even if they were just herbs, even if they were safe, she was doing something to him without his consent. Just like he'd been doing things to her without her consent for months. "He deserves this," one part of her whispered. "He deserves worse." "But this is wrong," another part argued. "Two wrongs don't make a right." Sierra pushed the guilt down and kept using the supplements. Because for the first time in 3 months, she could survive. And survival was all that mattered. By month 4, Damien was almost normal. He still had rules. Sierra still needed permission to leave, still had to attend events, still had to play the perfect wife. But the cruelty had softened. He came home at reasonable hours. Let her sleep. Took phone calls during dinner instead of demanding her complete attention. Some nights he didn't touch her at all. "Are you feeling okay?" Sierra asked one evening, genuinely concerned. "You've been so tired lately." "I'm fine. Just working too hard." He rubbed his temples. "The merger's taking more out of me than I expected. Maybe you should see a doctor?" "I don't need a doctor. I just need a vacation." He looked at her. "Actually, what if we went somewhere? Just for a long weekend. Get out of LA." Sierra blinked, surprised. "Really? We've been married 4 months and haven't had a real honeymoon. Let's go to Santa Barbara. Stay at the Four Seasons. Just relax." It felt like a trap. But it also felt like kindness. "Okay," Sierra said carefully. "That sounds nice." And it was nice. Damien was attentive, almost gentle. They walked on the beach. Had quiet dinners. He asked about her mother, who was responding beautifully to treatment, and actually listened to her answers. On the last night, as they sat on their hotel balcony watching the sunset, Damien said something that made Sierra's heart stop. "I think I've been too hard on you." She looked at him, shocked. "This arrangement, the contract, it was supposed to be simple. But I realize I've made it difficult." He stared out at the ocean. "You didn't deserve that." "Damien. I'm not apologizing. Not yet. But I'm aware." He turned to face her. "I want the next 8 months to be better. Easier. More like a real partnership." Sierra didn't trust it. Couldn't trust it. But she nodded anyway. That night, for the first time, when Damien reached for her, it felt almost consensual. Almost gentle. Almost like he actually cared about her experience. And Sierra realized something that terrified her. She was starting to feel something for him that wasn't just fear. Back in LA, Sierra stood in her bathroom staring at the jar of supplements. 8 months left on the contract. Damien was getting better. Kinder, gentler, more human. Was it the herbs? Or was he genuinely changing? She thought about stopping. About seeing if the improvement would continue without the supplements. But fear won out. What if he reverts? What if the real Damien comes back, the cruel one, the monster? She kept using them. But the guilt was eating her alive. One night, she called Jasmine. "Hey girl. I feel like I haven't talked to you in forever. How's married life?" "It's better. Damien's been different lately. Kinder." "That's good. I was so worried about you for a while there." "Jazz, can I ask you something?" "Anything." If you were in a situation where someone was hurting you, and you found a way to make them stop, but that way involved doing something to them without their knowledge, would that be wrong? Silence on the other end. Sierra, what's going on? Is Damien hurting you? No. I mean, he was. At first. But it's better now. Because of something you did? I can't explain. But hypothetically, would it be wrong? Jasmine was quiet for a long moment. Hypothetically? I think survival isn't about right or wrong. It's about staying alive. If you're trapped and you find a way to make the cage bigger, even if it's not perfect, you take it. Even if it means crossing lines. Sierra, whoever's hurting you already crossed the line. You're just trying to survive. After they hung up, Sierra sat alone in the dark, her friend's words echoing in her mind. Survival isn't about right or wrong. It's about staying alive. She opened the jar and measured out tomorrow's dose. When you're trapped in an impossible situation, how far is too far to protect yourself? If you had a way to make someone less cruel, even without their knowledge, would you use it? Where's the line between survival and manipulation? It started with small things. One morning in month 5, Damien came downstairs and found Sierra painting in the studio he'd set up for her. She was so absorbed in her work, a vibrant sunset over South Central LA, that she didn't hear him enter. He stood in the doorway for a full minute, just watching her. The way her face softened when she painted. The way her shoulders relaxed. The way she looked like herself instead of the frightened woman who'd been living in his house for 4 months. "It's beautiful," he said quietly. Sierra jumped, paintbrush clattering to the floor. "I'm sorry, I didn't hear you. I should have asked before using the studio." "Sierra." He held up a hand. "It's fine. The studio is for you. Use it whenever you want." She stared at him like he'd grown a second head. "I mean it," he continued. "You don't need my permission to exist in this house. To do things that make you happy." "Oh. Okay. Thank you." Damien picked up the fallen brush and handed it to her, his fingers briefly touching hers. "How's your mother doing?" She's really good, actually. The doctors say the tumors are shrinking. She might be in remission by the end of the year." "That's wonderful news." And he meant it. Sierra could hear it in his voice, genuine happiness for her. "Yeah, it is." She paused. "Thank you. For making that possible. You thanked me by marrying me. We're even." He moved closer to look at the painting. "This is South Central. The view from my mom's apartment. Where I grew up. You have real talent, Sierra. Have you thought about showing your work?" "I used to dream about it. Before life got in the way. Dreams don't have to stay dreams." He looked at her. "When this year is over, you'll have the money to pursue whatever you want. Art school. Your own gallery. Whatever makes you happy." It was the first time he'd acknowledged that their arrangement would end. That she would have a life after him. "I'll leave you to paint," he said. "But Sierra? You don't have to hide in here. This is your home too." After he left, Sierra sat down hard on her stool, her hands shaking. That wasn't the Damien she knew. That wasn't the cruel, controlling man who'd broken her for 4 months. "It's the supplements," she told herself. "They're working. He's calmer because of the herbs." But a small voice whispered, "Or maybe he's actually changing." The changes continued. Damien started coming home earlier, not just for dinner, but actually in time to cook with her. He'd never cooked before, claimed he didn't know how, but he'd try anyway, making her laugh when he burnt the pasta or oversalted the vegetables. "I'm a billionaire who can't boil water," he said, laughing at himself. How did this happen? "Too much success too young," Sierra teased, then caught herself. She was teasing him. Actually enjoying his company. When had that started? He gave her space. Actual space. He stopped demanding her presence every second. Stopped tracking her phone. Stopped asking permission for every little thing. "I'm going to see Jasmine tomorrow," Sierra said one evening, waiting for the interrogation about where, when, how long. "Great. You should see your friends more often. I've kept you too isolated." Sierra blinked. "You have." "Yes, I have." He set down his wine glass. I've done a lot of things wrong, Sierra. I'm aware of that now. What changed? Damien was quiet for a long moment. I've been doing some thinking. About why I am the way I am. About what I've been doing to you, to us. He met her eyes. And I don't like the person I see in the mirror. 2 weeks later, Damien made an announcement that shocked Sierra to her core. I'm starting therapy, he said over breakfast. Sierra's fork froze halfway to her mouth. What? Therapy. I found a trauma specialist. Dr. Michelle Torres. I have my first session tomorrow. You're voluntarily going to therapy? Is that so surprising? Yes, Sierra said honestly. I didn't think you believed in therapy. I didn't. But my brother Julian cornered me last week. Told me I was destroying myself from the inside out. That my anger and control issues were going to leave me alone and miserable. Damien's jaw tightened. He was right. What made you listen to him? You did. Sierra's breath caught. I watch you paint, Damien continued. I see how happy you are when you're creating something beautiful. And then I see how that happiness disappears when I walk into the room. How you tense up. How you become someone else, someone smaller, quieter, afraid. His voice cracked. I did that to you. And I hate myself for it. Tears burned in Sierra's eyes. So I'm going to therapy. I'm going to figure out why I am the way I am. And I'm going to try, he paused. I'm going to try to be better. Damien. You don't have to say anything. You don't have to forgive me or believe me or trust this. Just know that I'm trying. After he left for work, Sierra sat alone in the kitchen, her mind reeling. Therapy. He was starting therapy. Without her asking. Without her forcing him. Just because he wanted to change. She looked at the jar of supplements hidden in her robe pocket. The jar she'd been using faithfully every morning for 6 weeks. Is this why he's changing? The herbs? Or is this real? She needed to know. That morning, for the first time since she started, Sierra didn't add the powder to Damien's smoothie. For 3 days, Sierra held her breath waiting for Damien to revert. Waiting for the cruelty to come roaring back. For the demands and control and coldness to return. But it didn't. Day 1 without supplements, Damien came home on time, cooked dinner with her, told her about his first therapy session. Dr. Torres says I have PTSD from betrayal trauma, he said, chopping vegetables badly. That I've been recreating my powerlessness by making others powerless. It's a cycle. Do you believe her? I don't know. But it makes sense. Natasha destroyed me, so I've been destroying everyone else. Day 2, he actually asked her permission before kissing her goodnight. Is this okay? Sierra nodded, too surprised to speak. Day 3, he came home with flowers. Just simple roses from a street vendor. I saw these and thought of you. No cruelty. No demands. No reverting to the monster. He was still changing. Still getting better. Without the supplements. Sierra stood in the bathroom that night, staring at the jar, and realized something that made her chest ache. The transformation was real. Damien was healing. Not because of herbs or chemicals, but because he'd made a choice to do the work. She unscrewed the jar and poured the contents down the toilet. Watched the dark powder swirl away. I don't need this anymore, she thought. He's changing on his own. But fear still gnawed at her. What if this was temporary? What if he was just having a good week? What if the real Damien came back? She kept the empty jar. Just in case. With the supplements gone and Damien continuing therapy, something new started happening. They actually talked to each other. Real conversations. Not the shallow small talk of the first 4 months or the tense exchanges of survival. Real, genuine connection. One evening, they sat on the balcony overlooking LA, sharing a bottle of wine as the sun set. Tell me about growing up in South Central, Damien said. Why do you want to know? Because I want to know you. The real you. Not just the woman fulfilling a contract. So Sierra told him. About her mother working 3 jobs to keep them afloat after her father left. About painting on cardboard because they couldn't afford canvases. About dreaming of art school while knowing it would never happen. About watching friends get caught up in gangs while she fought to stay clean. "You're stronger than I ever gave you credit for," Damien said quietly. "I had to be. Survival isn't optional when you're poor." "No, it's not." He was quiet for a moment. "I grew up in a trailer park outside Vegas. My father was a drunk who beat my mother until she finally left when I was 12. Took my brother and me with her to California with nothing but the clothes on our backs." Sierra turned to look at him, surprised. "I didn't know that." "Most people don't. I scrubbed it from my public bio. Self-made billionaire sounds better than trailer park kid who got lucky with a coding project in college." He smiled bitterly. "But that's where I learned about power. About how the world treats you differently when you have it versus when you don't. Is that why you need control so badly?" "Dr. Torres thinks so. She says I'm terrified of being powerless again. So I make sure I always have the upper hand. Always have control." He looked at her. "Even if it means hurting people who don't deserve it." "I don't know what to say to that." "You don't have to say anything. I'm trying to be honest. To show you who I really am beneath all the bullshit." They sat in comfortable silence for a while, watching the city lights flicker on below. "Can I ask you something?" Sierra said. "Anything." "That first night, our wedding night, when you told me you wanted me to suffer. Did you mean it?" Damien's face crumpled with shame. "Yes. God help me, yes. I married you specifically to hurt you." "Why?" "Because I was so fucking angry. At Natasha. At myself for being stupid enough to love her. At the world for teaching me that vulnerability equals destruction." He turned to face her fully. "I looked at you, beautiful, kind, desperate to save your mother, and I saw someone I could control completely. Someone who needed me so badly she'd sign anything. And I thought, finally I get to be the one with power." Tears slipped down Sierra's cheeks. "I'm not asking you to forgive me," Damien continued, his own eyes wet. "I don't deserve forgiveness. But I need you to know, whatever I planned, whatever I intended when I married you, it's not what I want now." "What do you want now?" "I want to be someone worthy of you. Someone you don't have to fear. Someone you might actually want to spend time with when this contract ends." His voice broke. "I want to fix what I broke." Sierra wiped her eyes. "I don't know if that's possible." "I know. But I have to try." Therapy was changing Damien in visible ways. He started journaling. Started reading books about trauma and healing. Started attending a men's support group for survivors of betrayal. And in week 3 of month 6, he did something Sierra never expected. He got down on his knees in their bedroom and apologized. Really apologized. "Sierra, I need to say something, and I need you to just listen. You don't have to respond or forgive me or anything. Just hear me." She sat on the edge of the bed, her heart pounding. Damien knelt in front of her, his hands shaking. "What I did to you, what I've been doing to you for 5 months, is abuse. I can call it a contract or a business arrangement or whatever else, but the truth is, I abused you. Psychologically, sexually, emotionally. I stripped away your autonomy and your dignity, and I used your love for your mother as a weapon against you." His voice cracked. "There is no excuse. Natasha's betrayal doesn't justify it. My childhood doesn't justify it. My trauma doesn't justify it. Nothing justifies what I did." Tears streamed down his face. "I stole months of your life. Made you afraid in your own home. Treated you like property when you're a human being who deserves love and respect and kindness. And I'm sorry. God, Sierra, I'm so fucking sorry." Sierra couldn't breathe through her tears. "I can't undo it. Can't take back the pain or the fear or the nights you cried yourself to sleep. But I can promise you this, it stops now. Completely. The demands, the control, the cruelty, all of it. Over." He looked up at her, his eyes red and raw. "You have 7 months left on our contract. I'm going to honor every part of the financial agreement. Your mother will continue getting treatment. You'll get your money. But from this moment forward, you are free. Free to come and go. Free to have friends over. Free to say no to me about anything. Free to sleep in the guest room if you want. Free to live your life without me controlling it. His hands trembled as he continued. I know I don't deserve your forgiveness. I know I've destroyed any chance of you ever trusting me. But I want you to know, somewhere along the way, while I was trying to break you, you broke me instead. You showed me what real strength looks like. What real grace looks like. And you made me want to be better. He took a shaky breath. I don't know when it happened, Sierra. But I fell in love with you. Not the version of you that I tried to create, the broken, compliant one. But the real you. The woman who paints beautiful sunsets. Who loves her mother fiercely. Who survived hell and still has kindness in her eyes. Sierra's sob escaped before she could stop it. I love you, Damien whispered. And I know that means nothing after what I've done. I know saying I love you doesn't erase the abuse. But I need you to know. For the next 7 months, whether you stay in this house or move out, whether you speak to me or ignore me, I'm going to keep doing the work. Keep going to therapy. Keep trying to become someone worthy of even being in your presence. He stood slowly, wiping his eyes. That's all I wanted to say. You can go to the guest room if you want. Or I can. Whatever you need. Sierra sat there, her whole body shaking with sobs. 5 months of pain and fear and survival crashed over her in waves. But underneath all that pain was something else. Something she hadn't expected. I hate you, she whispered. I know. You destroyed me. Broke me. Made me forget who I was. I know. And I should leave. Should take the money and run and never look back. You should. Sierra looked up at him, tears streaming down her face. But I don't want to. Damien froze. I should hate you forever. Should never forgive you. But watching you change, watching you do the work, watching you become someone different, her voice broke. I don't know when it happened. But I fell in love with you too. Not the monster. The man underneath. The one who's trying so hard to heal. Sierra. I'm not saying I forgive you. I'm not saying what you did is okay. But I'm saying. She stood, closing the distance between them. I'm saying I want to try. Want to see if we can build something real from the ashes of this nightmare. Damien pulled her into his arms, and they both cried. For the pain. For the healing. For the impossibility of what they were trying to do. I'll spend the rest of my life making this up to you, he whispered into her hair. However long you'll let me. Just start by being honest. By being real. By being the man you're becoming instead of the man you were. I can do that. They stood there holding each other as the sun set over Los Angeles, 2 broken people trying to figure out how to heal together. Damien moved to the guest room. I want you to have space, he said. Want you to never feel trapped or pressured or like you can't say no. They started dating. Actually dating. Like people who were choosing each other instead of being contractually obligated. He took her to art galleries. She took him to her favorite taco truck in South Central. They walked on the beach in Malibu. Talked for hours about everything and nothing. Is this okay? Became Damien's most frequent question. Before touching her. Before kissing her. Before anything. And slowly, carefully, Sierra's fear started to ease. One night, after a month of gentle dates and chaste kisses goodnight, Sierra knocked on the guest room door. Hey, she said when Damien answered. Can I come in? Of course. She sat on the edge of his bed, nervous. I've been thinking. About us. About this. She took a breath. I want to try. Really try. But I need to know this is real. That you're really changing and not just performing for me. How can I prove it? Keep going to therapy. Keep being honest. Keep asking permission instead of taking. She met his eyes. And when you have bad days, because you will have bad days, don't hide them from me. Don't pretend to be perfect. Just be real. I can do that. And I need couples therapy. Both of us. Together. To work through what happened. Already scheduled. Dr. Torres recommended someone. Dr. Sarah Kim. Our first session is Thursday if you want to go. Sierra felt tears prick her eyes. You already set it up? I told you. I'm doing the work. All of it. She reached for his hand. Then I'm in. I'm scared and I don't know if this will work, but I'm in. Damien brought her hand to his lips. Thank you. For giving me a chance I don't deserve. You're earning it. Every day. Dr. Sarah Kim's office was warm and inviting, nothing like the cold, clinical spaces Sierra had imagined. Comfortable couches. Soft lighting. Plants in the corners. Tell me why you're here, Dr. Kim said after introductions. Damien and Sierra looked at each other. I abused my wife, Damien said bluntly. For the first 5 months of our marriage. And now I'm trying to fix it. Dr. Kim's expression didn't change. Sierra, is that how you describe it? Yes. Sierra's voice was steady. He was cruel and controlling. Used a contract marriage as an excuse to hurt me. But he's been in individual therapy for 6 weeks and he's changing. And I want to believe it's real. Do you love him? I think I do. Which makes me feel insane. It's not insane, Dr. Kim said gently. Trauma bonding is real. But so is genuine connection. Our job is to figure out which this is and whether this relationship can become healthy. Over the next 6 sessions, they unpacked everything. Damien talked about Natasha's betrayal. About how it had broken something fundamental in him. About the 3 contract wives before Sierra. About the cycle of control and cruelty he'd been trapped in. Sierra talked about the fear. The exhaustion. The way she'd stopped being a person and become a shell. About the supplements she'd used. Dr. Kim assured her they were harmless and understandable given the circumstances. About falling in love despite everything. Here's what I'm hearing, Dr. Kim said in week 4. Damien, you were genuinely trying to hurt Sierra as revenge against Natasha. You saw her as a proxy for your pain. Yes. But something shifted. You started seeing her as a person instead of a target. The therapy helped. But also, he looked at Sierra. She never became what I wanted her to become. Never became weak or broken or defeated. She survived me. And that made me question everything. Sierra, Dr. Kim turned to her. You stayed not just because of the contract, but because you saw glimpses of who Damien could be. Yes. And because I needed the money for my mom. But also, I think I saw his pain. Recognized it. And part of me thought, maybe we're both broken enough to understand each other. Can 2 broken people heal together? They both nodded. Then that's what we'll work toward. But I need to be clear, Damien, you cannot hide behind your trauma as an excuse. And Sierra, you cannot sacrifice your healing to help his. Both of you have to do your own work. I understand, Damien said. Me too, Sierra added. Month 8 was when it stopped feeling like an experiment and started feeling real. Damien's transformation wasn't perfect. He had bad days where old patterns tried to resurface. Times when he got controlling or cold or distant. But now, when it happened, he caught himself. I'm doing it again, aren't I? He'd say. Getting controlling. I'm sorry. Let me start over. And Sierra learned to communicate her needs instead of hiding them. I need space tonight, she'd say. And he'd give it without question. I want to stay in the guest room, she'd tell him after a hard day. And he'd kiss her forehead and let her go. They built trust slowly, carefully, like constructing a house on a cracked foundation. Every brick had to be placed perfectly or the whole thing would collapse. But it held. One night, Sierra came to Damien's room, not the guest room anymore, they'd started sharing again, and crawled into bed beside him. Hey, he said, setting down his book. You okay? I was thinking about something Dr. Kim said. About how we get to choose who we become. Yeah. You're choosing to heal. To be better. And I'm choosing to trust that. She turned to face him. I choose you, Damien. Not because of the contract or the money or because I'm trapped. But because I genuinely want this. Want us. Damien's eyes filled with tears. Are you sure? I'm terrified. But yes. I'm sure. He kissed her then, soft and gentle and asking permission with every movement. And when Sierra kissed him back, it wasn't survival or obligation. It was love. Real, complicated, hard-won love. They made love that night for the first time since Damien had started his transformation. And it was nothing like the brutal one-sided encounters of the first 5 months. This was slow, tender, equal. 2 people choosing each other instead of one taking from the other. Is this okay? Damien kept asking. Yes, Sierra would answer. It's perfect. Afterward, they lay tangled together, and Damien said something that made Sierra's heart stop. When the contract ends in 4 months, I want to renew our vows. Do it right this time. Ask you to marry me for real, not for business. Show the world, and you, that this is real. Damien. You don't have to answer now. Just know that's what I want. A real marriage with you. A real life. Sierra kissed him. Ask me in 4 months. When we've proven to ourselves that this can last. Deal. They fell asleep wrapped in each other's arms, 2 broken people who'd found a way to heal together. Neither knowing that ghosts from Damien's past were about to test everything they'd built. Can an abuser really change? Can a victim truly forgive? When broken people try to heal together, is it redemption or just another kind of trauma? What do you think? Would you give Damien a second chance? The CrossTech Annual Gala was the biggest event of the year. Tech moguls, venture capitalists, celebrities, and politicians all gathered at the Beverly Hilton to celebrate innovation and wealth. Sierra stood beside Damien in an emerald green gown that made her feel like royalty. But this time, unlike the early galas, she wasn't playing a role. She was genuinely by his side. His partner, not his possession. You look stunning, Damien whispered, his hand resting gently on her lower back, asking permission with his touch instead of taking. You clean up pretty well yourself, Sierra teased. They mingled through the crowd. Investors congratulated Damien on CrossTech's latest AI breakthrough. People commented on how happy the couple looked. How in love. And for the first time, it was true. Sierra was laughing at something Julian had said when she felt Damien's entire body go rigid beside her. Damien. She turned to look at him. What's wrong? His face had gone completely pale. His jaw was clenched so tight she could see the muscle jumping. His eyes were locked on someone, across the room. Sierra followed his gaze. A woman had just entered the ballroom. Tall, stunning, with platinum blonde hair and a blood-red dress that demanded attention. She moved through the crowd like she owned it, and maybe she did. Sierra recognized her from business magazines. Natasha Sterling. Venture capitalist. Ice Queen of Silicon Valley. Damien's ex-fiancée. The woman who had destroyed him. Damien, Sierra said quietly, touching his arm. Breathe. He sucked in a sharp breath, his hand finding hers and gripping tight. What is she doing here? I don't know, but we don't have to. It was too late. Natasha had spotted them. Her blood-red lips curved into a smile that didn't reach her eyes, and she walked straight toward them. Damien Cross. Her voice was honey and poison. It's been too long. Natasha. Damien's voice was ice. You look good. Happy, even. That's new. Her eyes slid to Sierra, assessing. And you must be the wife I've heard so much about. Sierra extended her hand, refusing to be intimidated. Sierra Cross. Nice to meet you. Natasha Sterling. She shook Sierra's hand with a grip that was just a little too firm. I have to say, I was surprised when I heard Damien got married. He swore after our incident that he'd never marry again. Things change, Sierra said evenly. People heal. Do they? Natasha's eyes glittered with something dangerous. Or do they just find new ways to hide the damage? What do you want, Natasha? Damien's voice was sharp. Can't I congratulate an old friend on his happiness? After all, we were going to be married once. I feel invested in your well-being. You lost the right to care about my well-being when you slept with my business partner and tried to destroy my company. People nearby were starting to stare. Julian appeared at Damien's elbow. Damien, maybe we should. No. Damien's voice was firm. Natasha was just leaving. Natasha's smile widened. Actually, I was hoping we could talk. Privately. For old time's sake. Absolutely not. It's okay, Sierra said quietly, though her stomach was churning. If you need to talk to her, I understand. No, Damien said again, looking at Sierra. I don't need to talk to her. I don't need anything from her. I have everything I want right here. He pulled Sierra closer, his arm around her waist, protective, not possessive. Natasha's eyes hardened. How touching. Well, enjoy the evening. She leaned in closer, her voice dropping. Though I have to wonder, does your sweet wife know about the others? About your little contract marriage hobby? Sierra felt Damien flinch. I thought not. Natasha straightened, her smile victorious. Enjoy the party, you two. She walked away, leaving a cold silence in her wake. They left the gala early. The drive home was silent, Damien's hands gripping the steering wheel so tight his knuckles were white. Damien, Sierra said gently. Talk to me. Not here. When we get home. At the mansion, Damien poured himself a scotch, something Sierra rarely saw him do anymore, and stood at the floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking L.A. What did she mean about the others? Sierra asked, though part of her already knew. Damien drained half the glass before answering. There were 3 before you. 3 contract marriages? Yes. He turned to face her. After Natasha, I was destroyed. Shattered. And instead of healing, I decided to make other women pay for what she did. You've told me this. But I didn't tell you there were 3 of them. 3 women before you who signed contracts, endured hell, and walked away the moment their year was up. His voice cracked. Maria. Catherine. Jade. I did to them what I did to you. Married them, broke them, used them, and let them go. Sierra sat down heavily on the couch. Where are they now? I don't know. My lawyers made them sign NDAs. They took their money and disappeared. I never followed up. Never apologized. Never acknowledged what I'd done. And Natasha knows about them? She's a venture capitalist. She has connections everywhere. Of course she knows. Damien set down his glass. Sierra, I need you to understand, those women were innocent. Just like you. They needed money for medical bills, or debts, or escaping bad situations. And I used their desperation against them. I know. You've told me this. But hearing it from Natasha, hearing her weaponize it, he ran his hands through his hair. God, Sierra, I'm a monster. I was a monster. And no amount of therapy or change erases what I did to 4 women. Sierra stood and walked to him. You're right. It doesn't erase it. But you're not that person anymore. How do you know? Because the man you were 5 months ago would have gone with Natasha to that private conversation. Would have let her manipulate him. Would have come home and taken his anger out on me. She cupped his face. But you didn't. You chose me. You chose healing over revenge. Damien pulled her close, his face buried in her hair. I don't deserve you. Maybe not. But you're earning me. Every single day. They stood there holding each other for a long time. But the storm was only beginning. The next morning, Sierra woke up to 17 missed calls. Jasmine. Her mother. Julian. Numbers she didn't recognize. What the hell? She grabbed her phone and saw the notifications. News alerts. Social media tags. Her blood ran cold. Tech mogul's dark secret. Damien Cross's serial contract marriages exposed. 4 women. 4 contracts. 4 victims. Inside Damien Cross's disturbing pattern. Crosstech CEO accused of predatory marriage schemes. She clicked on the first article. Her hands shook as she read. Sources close to Crosstech CEO Damien Cross reveal a disturbing pattern of contract marriages with vulnerable women. Over the past 6 years, Cross has allegedly married 4 different women: Maria Rodriguez, Catherine Lynn, Jade Washington, and his current wife Sierra Williams, using financial desperation to coerce them into 1-year agreements that sources describe as psychological and sexual abuse disguised as business transactions. The article went on. Quotes from anonymous sources, clearly Natasha. Financial records someone had leaked. Even photos of Damien with the previous wives at various events. And then, at the bottom, representatives for Mr. Cross declined to comment. His current wife, Sierra Williams, could not be reached. Crosstech's board of directors is reportedly calling an emergency meeting to discuss the allegations. Damien appeared in the doorway, his phone in his hand, his face ashen. "Sierra. Is it true?" she asked, even though she knew it was. "All of it?" "Yes. But not the way they're making it sound. They're calling you a predator. They're calling me and those other women victims. You were victims." Damien's voice broke. "That's what I've been trying to tell you. What I did was predatory. Was abusive. The article is right." Sierra stood, pacing. "So what do we do?" "I don't know. My PR team wants me to deny everything. My lawyers are drafting cease and desist letters. The board wants a statement." "Do the other women know? Maria, Catherine, Jade?" "I don't know. The NDAs should have prevented," he stopped. "Jesus. The NDAs. I made them sign NDAs so they couldn't tell anyone what I did to them." The full horror of it crashed over both of them. "You silenced them," Sierra whispered. "I silenced them," Damien agreed, his voice hollow. "And now Natasha is exposing me, and I deserve every bit of it." For 3 days, the media storm raged. Sierra stopped reading the articles, stopped looking at social media. But she couldn't escape it. Reporters camped outside the estate. Her phone wouldn't stop ringing. Even her mother called, worried. "Baby, what's going on? These articles, they're saying terrible things." "Mom, it's complicated." "Are you safe? Is he hurting you?" "Not anymore. He was at first, but how could she explain?" "Mom, I can't talk about this right now." Jasmine was less diplomatic. "I'm flying to LA right now," she said. "You're getting out of that house." "Jazz, wait. No. I warned you. I told you rich men don't chase event planners for fun. Now the whole world knows he's a predator and you're still defending him." "He's changed." "Abusers don't change, Sierra. They just get better at hiding it." Sierra hung up, her hands shaking. Was Jasmine right? Had she been fooling herself? Had Damien's transformation been real, or had she just convinced herself it was because she'd fallen in love with him? That night, she found Damien in his study, staring at his laptop screen with dead eyes. "The board is forcing me to step down as CEO pending an investigation," he said without looking up. Crosstech's stock dropped 23% today. 3 major investors are pulling out. And my lawyer says if any of the previous wives file charges, I could face criminal prosecution. "Would you?" Sierra asked. "Face charges?" "Depends on the state laws and what they can prove. The contracts were legal, but if they can prove coercion or assault." He finally looked at her. "I deserve it." Sierra sat down across from him. "Damien, I need to ask you something, and I need you to be completely honest." "Always." "These past 4 months, the therapy, the change, the apologies, was any of it real? Or were you just trying to make sure I wouldn't go to the press like Natasha did?" Damien flinched like she'd slapped him. "You really think I'd?" "Answer the question." He closed his laptop and leaned forward, his eyes meeting hers directly. Every word was real. Every therapy session, every apology, every moment of trying to be better, all of it was real. "I didn't change because I was afraid of exposure. I changed because I couldn't stand what I'd become." "How do I know that's true?" "You don't. You have to choose whether to believe me or not." His voice was steady. "But Sierra, if I was just performing, would I have set up couples therapy? Would I have told you about the other wives? Would I have given you complete freedom to leave whenever you wanted?" Sierra wanted to believe him. God, she wanted to. But doubt was eating her alive. "I need space," she said finally. "I need to think about all of this without you in my ear telling me what to think." Pain flashed across Damien's face, but he nodded. "Where will you go?" "My mom's apartment in South Central. I'll stay there for a while." "Okay." He stood. "I'll have my driver." "No. I'll take an Uber. I need to do this myself. Sierra, his voice cracked. Are you leaving me? Is this over? She looked at him, this man who'd broken her and then spent months putting her back together. This man she'd fallen in love with despite every reason not to. I don't know, she whispered. I need time to figure out what's real and what's me convincing myself things are okay because I'm trauma bonded to you. That's fair. Damien's eyes were wet. Take all the time you need. The contract doesn't matter anymore. Whether you come back or not, your mother's treatment continues. You get your money. No penalties, no strings. You'd let me go that easily? Easily. He laughed bitterly. Sierra, letting you walk out that door will be the hardest thing I've ever done. But if you need space to figure out your truth, then I'm going to give it to you. That's what love is. Sierra grabbed her purse and her phone, walked to the door, turned back one last time. If this is real, if you really have changed, prove it. Not to me. To them. To Maria and Catherine and Jade. To all the women you hurt. Make it right. How? That's for you to figure out. She left before he could respond. Sierra spent 2 weeks at her mother's apartment in South Central. Diane didn't ask questions, just held her daughter while she cried and made her favorite foods and told her everything would be okay. Do you love him? Diane asked finally. Yes. Does he love you? I think so. But Mom, how do I know it's real? How do I know I'm not just broken in a way that makes me think abuse is love? Baby, I raised you to be smarter than that. If you think he's changed, there's probably a reason. Or I'm lying to myself. Diane was quiet for a long moment. Your daddy used to hit me. Before he left. And I stayed because I thought I could fix him, thought my love could change him. She took Sierra's hand. But he never changed. Never got help. Never took responsibility. He just got worse until I finally kicked him out. So you're saying I should leave Damien? No. I'm saying there's a difference between a man who says he'll change and a man who actually does the work. Your daddy never went to therapy. Never apologized. Never tried to make amends. She looked Sierra in the eyes. From what you've told me, Damien is doing all those things. That doesn't erase what he did. But it matters. Meanwhile, Damien was falling apart. But not in the way he used to, not with anger or control or cruelty. He fell apart by finally facing what he'd done. He called Dr. Torres for an emergency session. I'm losing her, he said, his voice breaking. And I deserve to. God, I deserve so much worse. What are you going to do about it? What can I do? I can't undo the past. Can't take back what I did to 4 women. No. But you can take responsibility publicly. You can make amends. You can use your privilege and platform to help instead of hurt. How? Dr. Torres leaned forward. Damien, you've been doing the internal work. Now it's time to do the external work. Face the consequences. Make real reparations. Show the world and yourself that change is possible. 1 week later, Damien held a press conference. No PR team. No lawyers scripting his words. Just him, a microphone, and the truth. Sierra watched it on TV from her mother's couch, her heart in her throat. Damien stood at the podium in Crosstech's headquarters, facing a room full of reporters and cameras. My name is Damien Cross, and I'm here to tell you the truth about the allegations against me. His voice was steady but raw. Everything you've read is true. Over the past 6 years, I have entered into 4 contract marriages with women who were in desperate financial situations. I used their desperation to coerce them into relationships that I controlled completely. I was psychologically, emotionally, and sexually abusive. Gasps from the reporters. Cameras flashing. I'm not here to make excuses. My ex-fiancée's betrayal doesn't justify what I did. My childhood trauma doesn't justify it. Nothing justifies it. I made a deliberate choice to hurt vulnerable women because I was too broken to heal properly. He paused, his hands gripping the podium. Maria Rodriguez, Catherine Lynn, Jade Washington, I owe you more than words can express. I owe you apologies that can never be adequate. I owe you reparations for the pain I caused, Sierra's breath caught. To that end, I'm taking the following actions. First, I'm releasing all 4 of you from your NDAs. You're free to tell your stories without legal consequence. Second, I'm setting up individual trust funds for each of you, $5 million each, no strings attached. Third, I'm stepping down permanently as CEO of CrossTech. More gasps. Fourth, I'm establishing the Healing and Accountability Foundation with an initial endowment of $50 million. The foundation will provide free legal services, therapy, and financial support to survivors of intimate partner abuse and coercive relationships. He looked directly into the camera. And to my wife, Sierra, the woman who survived me and somehow still found it in her heart to help me become better, I love you. Whether you come back or not, whether you forgive me or not, I want you to know that you changed my life. You showed me what real strength looks like. What real grace looks like. His voice cracked. I can't undo the past. But I can try to make sure my future looks different. That's all I can offer. He stepped away from the podium without taking questions. Sierra sat on the couch, tears streaming down her face. Well, Diane said quietly, that's a man doing the work. Sierra's phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. This is Maria Rodriguez. I saw the press conference. I don't forgive him for what he did. But I respect that he's trying. If you love him, give him a chance. We all deserve the chance to be better than our worst selves. Another text, different number. Catherine Lynn here. Tell Damien thank you for the trust fund and the truth. And tell him I hope he keeps healing. We all do. Sierra covered her face with her hands and sobbed. 3 days after the press conference, Sierra came home. Not to the Beverly Hills mansion. Damien had moved out, given her the house. He was staying at the Malibu Beach property, giving her space. But she didn't go to the mansion. She went to Malibu. She found him on the deck overlooking the ocean, sitting alone with a cup of coffee as the sun set. Hey, she said quietly. He spun around, his eyes widening. Sierra. Can I sit? Of course. This is your, he stopped. Yes. Please. She sat beside him, both of them staring at the waves. I saw the press conference, she said. Yeah. That was brave. Stupid, maybe, from a legal standpoint. But brave. Dr. Torres says accountability isn't about protecting yourself. It's about taking responsibility regardless of consequences. The board really forced you to step down? Yeah. Julian is interim CEO. It's probably better that way. I need to focus on healing, not corporate strategy. They sat in silence for a while. I talked to Maria and Catherine, Sierra said finally. They texted me. Damien's head snapped toward her. They did. They said they don't forgive you, but they respect that you're trying. She turned to face him. Damien, I've spent 2 weeks thinking about us. About everything. And I realized something. What? You were a monster. You did monstrous things. But monsters don't go to therapy. Monsters don't apologize publicly. Monsters don't set up foundations and trust funds and step down from their companies. Her voice was steady. You're not a monster anymore. You're a man who did terrible things and is trying desperately to make it right. Sierra. I'm not saying I forgive everything. I'm not saying the past doesn't matter. But I am saying, she took his hand. I choose you. I choose us. I choose to believe that healing is possible and love can survive even the darkest circumstances. Damien's eyes filled with tears. Are you sure? No. I'm terrified. But I'm sure that I love you. I'm sure that watching you take accountability made me fall in love with you even more. I'm sure that we're both broken people who are trying to become whole. He pulled her close, burying his face in her hair. I don't deserve you. Probably not. But you're earning me every day. She pulled back to look at him. The contract expires in 3 months. When it does, I want you to ask me again. To marry you. For real this time. No contracts, no money, no obligations. Just 2 people choosing forever. And if I ask, what will you say? Sierra smiled through her tears. Ask me in 3 months and find out. The day the contract expired, Damien woke Sierra up at sunrise. "Come with me," he said. "I want to show you something." They drove to the beach in Malibu, the same beach where they'd walked during month 8 when everything was starting to heal. The sun was just starting to rise over the Pacific, painting the sky in pinks and golds. Damien took both her hands. 12 months ago, I married you for all the wrong reasons. I saw you as a target, a transaction, a way to feel powerful." His voice was thick with emotion. "I spent 4 months trying to break you. And then something miraculous happened. You broke me instead. You shattered every wall I'd built. You showed me that real strength isn't control, it's vulnerability. That real power isn't domination, it's partnership." Sierra's eyes were already wet. "These past 8 months with you, the real you, and me becoming the real me, have been the best of my life. You taught me how to heal, how to love, how to be a better man." He got down on one knee in the sand. "Sierra Elizabeth Williams, I'm not asking you to marry me because of a contract or money or obligation. I'm asking because you're my best friend, my partner, my home. I'm asking because I want to spend the rest of my life earning your love. I'm asking because forever with you sounds like the only future worth having." He pulled out a ring, not the practical diamond from their contract wedding, but a custom-designed piece with her birthstone surrounded by small diamonds. "Will you marry me? For real this time? No contracts, no end dates, just us choosing each other every day for the rest of our lives." Sierra pulled him to his feet, laughing through her tears. "Yes. Yes, I'll marry you. Again. For real this time." He slipped the ring on her finger and kissed her as the sun rose behind them, two broken people who'd found a way to become whole together. The beach in Malibu was transformed into something magical. White chairs arranged in the sand facing the ocean. An arch draped in cream roses and greenery. The sun setting over the Pacific, painting everything gold. This was nothing like their courthouse wedding 18 months ago. This was real. Chosen. Celebrated. Sierra stood in the beach house, looking at herself in the mirror. The dress was simple, flowing white silk that moved like water, off-shoulder, barefoot bride. Her natural hair was in long box braids decorated with small white flowers. Jasmine stood behind her, tears already streaming. "Girl, you look like a dream," Jasmine said, adjusting Sierra's braids. "I still can't believe you're really doing this. Marrying him again. I know it seems crazy." "It doesn't seem crazy. It seems like a miracle." Jasmine squeezed her shoulders. "I watched you almost die in that marriage. And then I watched you both do the work to heal. If anyone deserves happiness, it's you." Diane appeared in the doorway, radiant and healthy, 2 years cancer-free and stronger than ever. "Baby girl," she breathed. "You're beautiful." Sierra turned to her mother and broke down crying. "Mama, I'm getting married. For real this time." "I know, honey. And this time, it's right. I can feel it." The ceremony was intimate. Just 40 people, family, close friends, the people who mattered most. Julian stood as Damien's best man. Carmen was there with her daughter. Dr. Torres sat in the front row beside Dr. Kim. Even Maria and Catherine had accepted invitations, choosing to support Sierra's new beginning. As the string quartet played, Sierra walked down the aisle on her mother's arm. Damien stood at the altar in a simple gray suit, barefoot like her, and when he saw her, tears immediately streamed down his face. This wasn't the cold, controlled man who'd married her 18 months ago. This was someone vulnerable, open, real. The officiant, a friend of Dr. Torres who specialized in healing ceremonies, smiled at them both. "Damien and Sierra have written their own vows." "Damien." Damien took Sierra's hands, his voice thick with emotion. "Sierra, 18 months ago, I married you with the intent to hurt you. I saw you as a transaction, a target, a way to feel powerful after being powerless." He wiped his eyes. "But you didn't break. You survived me. And in surviving me, you showed me what I'd become. You held up a mirror to my cruelty and forced me to face it." His voice cracked. "You could have run. Should have run. But instead, you gave me a chance I didn't deserve. You watched me stumble through therapy and healing, and you chose to believe I could be better. You loved me when I was unlovable. You saw the man I could become before I could see him myself. He squeezed her hands. I vow to spend the rest of my life being worthy of that faith. I vow to never stop doing the work, the therapy, the accountability, the constant choice to be better. I vow to honor your strength by being strong enough to be vulnerable. I vow to love you not as possession, but as partner. Not as control, but as choice. His voice dropped to a whisper. I vow to choose you, Sierra Williams, every single day for the rest of my life. In the hard moments and the easy ones. When I'm scared and when I'm sure. When old wounds try to reopen and when healing feels impossible. I choose you. Always. Sierra was sobbing openly now. Damien Cross, she began, her voice shaking. You hurt me. You broke me. You made me forget who I was. And for a long time, I thought that was the end of my story. She wiped her tears. But you taught me something I never expected. You taught me that people can change. That healing is possible. That monsters can become men if they're willing to do the work. She smiled through her tears. You did the work, Damien. You faced your demons. You took accountability. You made amends. You became someone I could not only survive, but genuinely love. Her voice strengthened. I vow to love all versions of you, the broken one and the healing one, the scared one and the strong one. I vow to call you out when old patterns resurface and celebrate you when you choose better. I vow to do my own healing work so our relationship is partnership, not codependency. She squeezed his hands. I vow to remember where we came from without letting it define where we're going. I vow to trust this love we've built from ashes. I vow to choose you, Damien Cross, every single day. In therapy sessions and beach walks. In hard conversations and soft moments. When you're easy to love and when you're not. I choose you. Always. The officiant smiled, wiping her own eyes. By the power vested in me, and by the power of your own healing and choice, I now pronounce you husband and wife. Again. For real this time. You may kiss your bride. Damien pulled Sierra close and kissed her as the sun set behind them, their friends and family cheering, the ocean waves crashing in celebration. This time, the kiss tasted like freedom, like choice, like forever. They spent 2 weeks in Bali at a private villa overlooking rice terraces and jungle. No phones. No press. No outside world. Just them. One evening, they sat on their balcony watching the sunset, wrapped in soft robes, sharing a bottle of wine. I can't believe this is real, Sierra said softly. 6 months ago, I was hiding at my mom's apartment wondering if I'd made a terrible mistake loving you. Now we're here. Married for real. Biggest plot twist of my life, Damien said, pulling her closer. I planned to hurt you. Instead, you healed me. We healed each other. They were quiet for a while, listening to the jungle sounds. Can I tell you something? Damien said. Always. I'm scared. Sierra turned to look at him. Of what? Of messing this up. Of old patterns coming back. Of waking up one day and being that person again, the one who hurt you. His voice was raw. What if I'm just one bad day away from becoming a monster again? Sierra took his face in her hands. Do you know what the difference is between you now and you 18 months ago? What? 18 months ago, you didn't care that you were hurting me. You wanted to hurt me. Now, the thought of hurting me terrifies you. That's growth, Damien. That's healing. She kissed him softly. You're going to have bad days. We both will. But you're not that person anymore. You've rewired your brain through therapy and hard work. You've built new patterns. But what if? No what ifs. We handle things as they come. Together. That's what partnership means. Damien pulled her into his lap, holding her close. I love you so much it scares me. Good scared or bad scared? Good scared. The kind that makes me want to be better every day. They made love that night in their Balinese villa, slow and tender and equal. And afterward, wrapped in each other's arms, they talked about the future. I want kids, Sierra said quietly. Someday. Damien stiffened slightly. Really? Does that scare you? Terrifies me. What if I'm like my father? What if I hurt them? You won't. You're nothing like him. How do you know? Because your father never got help. Never faced his demons. Never tried to be better. She turned to face him in the darkness. You've been in therapy for over a year. You've completely changed your life. You're ready to be a father, Damien. Even if you don't feel ready yet. He kissed her forehead. Let's get through year one of this marriage first. Then we'll talk about tiny humans. Deal. They settled into real married life, and it was nothing like the contract year. They moved out of the Beverly Hills mansion, too many bad memories, and bought a house in the Pacific Palisades. Smaller, warmer, with an art studio for Sierra and a home office for Damien. Sierra launched the Williams Cross Foundation officially. The mission, helping women escape abusive marriages and providing funding for medical treatments for families in crisis. I want to be what we needed, she told Damien. What my mom needed. What I needed. What your previous wives needed. Our previous wives, Damien corrected gently. They're part of both our stories now. Maria, Catherine, and Jade became advisors to the foundation. Slowly, carefully, they built a working relationship with Damien, not friendship, but mutual respect. I don't forgive you, Catherine told him at one foundation meeting. But I respect what you're building here. And I'm glad Sierra found a way to transform pain into purpose. I don't expect forgiveness, Damien replied. I just want to make sure what I did to you leads to helping others. That's the only redemption I can offer. Damien worked with Julian at Crosstech as a consultant, no longer CEO, but still contributing his expertise. But most importantly, he stayed in therapy. Every Tuesday at 2 p.m., Dr. Torres's office. Every Thursday evening, couples therapy with Dr. Kim. Every Saturday morning, a men's accountability group for former abusers trying to heal. You know you don't have to do all this anymore, Sierra said one evening. You've changed. Everyone can see it. I do have to, Damien said. Not because you're forcing me, but because healing isn't a destination. It's a practice. And the moment I stop practicing is the moment I risk sliding backward. Sierra fell in love with him all over again in those moments. When he chose healing over comfort. When he faced hard truths instead of running from them. They had fights, of course. Real couple fights about normal things. Dishes in the sink, whose turn it was to call the plumber, whether to spend Christmas in South Central or Malibu. But also about hard things. About Damien's occasional tendency to slip into controlling language. About Sierra's occasional tendency to people-please instead of stating her needs. You're doing it again, Sierra would say. The controlling thing. And Damien would stop, breathe, reset. You're right. I'm sorry. Let me try that again without dictating. You're doing it again, Damien would say. Saying yes when you mean no. And Sierra would stop, breathe, be honest. You're right. What I really want is. They learned each other's healing edges and trauma triggers. Learned to fight fair. Learned that love wasn't about being perfect. It was about being honest and showing up even when it was hard. Sierra had been feeling off for weeks. Exhausted. Nauseous. Emotional in ways that felt bigger than normal. I think I'm coming down with something, she told Jasmine over lunch. I'm so tired all the time. Jasmine looked at her knowingly. Girl, when was your last period? Sierra froze. I don't. Sierra. Oh my God. She bought 3 pregnancy tests on the way home. Took all 3. Stared at the 6 pink lines that appeared like magic. Pregnant. She sat on the bathroom floor, laughing and crying at the same time. They talked about kids someday. But someday had apparently become now. When Damien came home that evening, she met him at the door with one of the tests behind her back. Hey, he said, kissing her. Good day. Interesting day. You. Board meeting was brutal, but Julian handled it well. I'm thinking Thai food for dinner. Sounds good. But first, I have a question. Shoot. How do you feel about being a dad in about 7.5 months? Damien froze. What? She pulled out the pregnancy test and handed it to him. He stared at it for a full 30 seconds, his face cycling through shock, fear, joy, terror, and back to joy. You're pregnant, he whispered. I'm pregnant. We're having a baby. We're having a baby. Damien's legs gave out. He sat down hard on the floor, the pregnancy test still in his shaking hands. Damien? Are you okay? I don't know. His voice was barely audible. Sierra, I'm terrified. She sat beside him, taking his hand. Me too. What if I'm a terrible father? What if I hurt them? What if? What if you're an amazing father? She interrupted gently. What if all the work you've done, all the therapy, all the healing, what if it's prepared you for this? How can you be sure? I can't. But I can be sure of this. You're not the same man you were 2 years ago. You're not even the same man you were last year. You're going to be a great dad, Damien. I believe that with everything in me. He pulled her close, burying his face in her shoulder. I'm going to need so much therapy. She laughed through her tears. Good thing Dr. Torres already has you on her schedule. At 20 weeks, they found out they were having twins. Twins. Sierra's voice echoed through the ultrasound room. The technician laughed. Surprise. Twin A and Twin B, both looking healthy. Damien looked like he might pass out. Two babies. Can you tell what they are? Sierra asked, squeezing his hand. Do you want to know? Sierra looked at Damien. What do you think? I want to know everything. I want to prepare. He stopped. Yes. Please tell us. The technician smiled. Twin A is a boy. Twin B is a girl. Sierra burst into tears. Damien just stared at the screen, watching the two tiny humans moving around inside his wife. A boy and a girl, he whispered. We're having a son and a daughter. That night, they lay in bed throwing out name ideas. What about Marcus for the boy? Sierra suggested. After my grandfather. Marcus Damien Cross. Damien tested it out. I like it. And Diana for the girl. After my mom. Diana Sierra Cross. Damien smiled. Perfect. He placed his hand on Sierra's growing belly. Marcus and Diana. Our kids. Our kids, Sierra echoed. Can you believe we get to do this? Get to be parents together. Honestly? No. But I'm going to try to be the best dad I can be. That's all they'll need. As Sierra's belly grew, so did Damien's anxiety. He had nightmares about hurting the babies. About losing his temper. About becoming his father. One night, Sierra woke to find him sitting on the floor of the nursery they were setting up, his head in his hands, crying. Damien. She sat beside him carefully, her belly making quick movements difficult. What's wrong? I can't do this, he sobbed. I can't be a father. What if I yell at them? What if I lose control? What if they're scared of me? Have you talked to Dr. Torres about this? Every session. She says it's normal for abuse survivors to fear becoming abusers. But knowing it's normal doesn't make it less terrifying. Sierra took his face in her hands. Look at me. You are not your father. You're not the man you were 2 years ago. You are Damien Cross, the man who did the hardest work of his life to heal. The man who takes accountability. The man who shows up even when it's scary. But what if it's not enough? Then we'll handle it together. That's what partnership means. That's what parenting means. She placed his hand on her belly, where the twins were kicking. These babies are lucky to have you as their dad. And I'm going to remind you of that every time you forget. Damien pressed his forehead against hers. Emergency therapy session tomorrow? Already texted Dr. Torres. She said she can fit you in at 9 a.m. What did I do to deserve you? You did the work. You earned me. Now you're going to earn them too. Sierra went into labor 3 weeks early at 2 a.m. on a Tuesday. Damien, she gasped, shaking him awake. My water just broke. He shot out of bed like he'd been electrocuted. Okay. Hospital bag. Car. Keys. Where are the keys? In your hand, baby. Right. Okay. Let's, shit, I forgot to call Diane. Damien, breathe. You breathe. I'm freaking out. Despite the pain, Sierra laughed. You've handled corporate mergers and hostile takeovers. You can handle this. Those didn't involve tiny humans coming out of the woman I love. They made it to Cedars-Sinai, the same hospital where Diane had been treated, full circle, and Sierra was admitted immediately. 14 hours of labor. 14 hours of Damien holding her hand, wiping her forehead, telling her she was strong and amazing and he was in awe of her. I can't do this, Sierra gasped during a particularly brutal contraction. Yes, you can. You're the strongest person I know. Easy for you to say, you're not pushing two humans out of your body. You're right. I'm sorry. What can I do? Just stay. Don't leave. Never. I'm right here. At 6:47 p.m., Marcus Damien Cross entered the world, screaming his tiny lungs out. Damien cut the cord with shaking hands, tears streaming down his face. He's perfect. Sierra, he's perfect. 1 down, 1 to go, the doctor said cheerfully. 12 minutes later, at 6:59 p.m., Diana Sierra Cross made her entrance, quieter than her brother but just as perfect. The nurses placed both babies on Sierra's chest, and Damien collapsed into the chair beside the bed, completely overcome. You did it, he whispered. You brought them here. We did it, Sierra corrected, looking at their tiny son and daughter. We made them together. Diane burst into the room moments later, tears already streaming. My grandbabies. Oh, Sierra, oh honey, they're beautiful. The next few hours were a blur of visitors. Jasmine, Julian and his family, Carmen, even Dr. Torres stopped by with flowers. But late that night, when everyone had gone home and Sierra was sleeping, Damien sat in the chair holding Marcus in one arm and Diana in the other. Hi, he whispered. I'm your dad. And I'm terrified. But I'm going to love you so much. I'm going to protect you and teach you and mess up sometimes, but I'm going to try so hard to be good for you. Marcus yawned. Diana blinked up at him with dark eyes. Your mom is the strongest person in the world. And you too, you're our miracle. You're proof that broken people can heal and build beautiful things. His voice cracked. I'm going to be the dad you deserve. I promise. A nurse poked her head in. Mr. Cross? Your wife is asking for you. Damien carefully placed the twins in their bassinet and went to Sierra's bedside. Hey, she whispered. You okay? I'm better than okay. I'm perfect. He kissed her forehead. Thank you. For them. For us. For everything. We're a family now. We're a family now, he echoed. And I'm never taking that for granted. Cross Williams Residence, Pacific Palisades, Sunday morning. Sunlight streamed through the windows of the remodeled house in Pacific Palisades. The cold minimalism of Damien's old style was gone, replaced by warmth, colorful artwork on the walls, most of it Sierra's, family photos everywhere, toys scattered across the living room floor. The sound of small feet thundering down the hallway broke the peaceful morning quiet. Daddy. Diana took my race car. Did not. It was on the floor. 5-year-old Marcus Damien Cross appeared in the kitchen doorway, his dark curls wild from sleep, wearing Spider-Man pajamas and an expression of pure indignation. Right behind him came his twin sister Diana, equally wild-haired, in princess pajamas, holding the contested race car behind her back. Damien looked up from the pancakes he was attempting to flip, a dusting of flour on his nose. Okay. Let's use our words. Marcus, what happened? I left my car on the floor and Diana stole it. Diana. Damien crouched down to her level. Did you take Marcus's car? Diana's bottom lip trembled. It was just sitting there. I thought he was done with it. And what do we do before we take something that belongs to someone else? Ask permission, Diana mumbled, handing the car back to Marcus. Sorry, Marcus. It's okay. Marcus immediately brightened. Wanna race cars together? Yeah. And just like that, crisis averted. The twins ran back to the living room, already best friends again. Sierra appeared in the doorway, her natural hair in a messy bun, wearing one of Damien's t-shirts and leggings, laughing. You handled that like a pro. Yeah. Damien looked genuinely pleased. I'm getting better at the conflict mediation thing. You're getting better at all of it. Sierra wrapped her arms around him from behind, resting her chin on his shoulder. Remember when you were terrified you'd be a terrible father? I'm still terrified sometimes. But look at you. Making pancakes. Settling disputes. Being present. She kissed his cheek. They adore you. I adore them. He flipped a pancake successfully this time. Though I still can't believe we made two whole humans. Two chaotic, beautiful, exhausting humans. They heard a crash from the living room, followed by Marcus's voice. It's okay. Nothing broke. Sierra laughed. I'll go check on that. You finish the pancakes. After breakfast, which involved more syrup on faces than in stomachs, the family settled into their Sunday routine. Damien took the twins to the park while Sierra worked on foundation proposals. At the park, Marcus and Diana ran straight for the swings. Daddy, push me. Diana called. Me too. Marcus echoed. Damien stood between them, pushing both swings in turn, his heart full. A woman on the nearby bench smiled at him. You've got your hands full. Best problem I've ever had, Damien said, grinning as Diana shrieked with laughter. He thought back to 5 years ago, sitting in that ultrasound room, terrified he'd be a monster to his children. All the therapy sessions where he'd sobbed about his fears of becoming his father. All the time Sierra had held him and promised he was nothing like the man who'd hurt him. She'd been right. He wasn't perfect. He still had bad days. Still caught himself slipping into old controlling patterns sometimes. Still had to consciously choose gentleness when stress made him want to snap. But he was doing it. Every single day, he was choosing to be the father his children deserved. Daddy, watch me jump. Marcus called from the swing. Wait for me to spot you. Too late. Marcus jumped, landed in the sand with a thud, and popped up triumphantly. I did it. Damien's heart had stopped for a full second, but he forced himself to stay calm. That was brave, buddy. But next time, please wait for me to be ready to catch you, okay? Okay, Daddy. Diana tried to copy her brother, and Damien was there to catch her, swinging her up in his arms. Gotcha, princess. She giggled, wrapping her arms around his neck. You're the best, Daddy. Damien's eyes stung. You're the best daughter. I'm your only daughter. Which makes you automatically the best. That evening was the Williams Cross Foundation's 5th annual fundraiser gala. Sierra stood backstage at the Beverly Hilton, the same hotel where she'd first met Damien 7 years ago, adjusting her dress and taking deep breaths. Jasmine appeared beside her. You ready for this? As ready as I'll ever be. Public speaking still terrifies me. Girl, you run a multi-million-dollar foundation that's helped over 10,000 women. You got this. Sierra smiled. Thanks, Jazz. For everything. For being there through all of it. Always. Jasmine hugged her. Now go out there and tell your story. The ballroom was packed. Tech industry leaders. Philanthropists. Celebrities. Abuse survivors. Former contract wives. Maria, Catherine, and Jade sat in the front row, all three now working for the foundation in various capacities. Damien sat with the twins, dressed in formal wear, looking adorable and slightly uncomfortable, and Diane, who looked radiant and healthy at 59. Sierra took the stage, her heart pounding. Good evening, everyone. Thank you for being here tonight. Her voice was steady despite her nerves. 7 years ago, I was a desperate woman who agreed to marry a billionaire stranger to pay for my mother's cancer treatment. I thought I was saving her life. I had no idea I was stepping into a nightmare. The room was silent, everyone leaning forward. For 5 months, I endured psychological, emotional, and sexual abuse. I was controlled, manipulated, and broken down until I barely recognized myself. I survived by making desperate choices that I'm not proud of. And I stayed because I had no other option, or so I thought. She paused, finding Damien's eyes in the audience. But something unexpected happened. The man who married me to hurt me started going to therapy. Started taking accountability. Started doing the hardest work of his life, healing. Her voice cracked. And watching him transform taught me something crucial. People can change. Not everyone will. Not everyone wants to. But some people, when they truly commit to healing, can become completely different people. Damien was openly crying now. This foundation exists because pain doesn't have to be the end of the story. Because healing is possible. Because survivors deserve support, resources, and the chance to rebuild their lives. She smiled through her tears. Because love, real, healthy, chosen love, can grow even in the darkest soil if both people are willing to do the work. She gestured to the screen behind her, where statistics appeared. In 5 years, the Williams Cross Foundation has helped 10,247 women and their families. We've provided $89 million in medical treatment funding. We've offered free legal services to 3,500 survivors leaving abusive relationships. We've funded therapy for 7,800 people. And we're just getting started. The applause was thunderous. To every survivor here tonight, whether of abuse, illness, poverty, or trauma, you are not defined by what happened to you. You are defined by how you rise from it. Your story is not over. Your healing is possible. And you are not alone. She looked directly at Damien. And to the person who hurt me and then spent years becoming someone different, thank you for showing me that redemption is real. That accountability matters. That love can survive even the darkest beginnings. The standing ovation lasted 5 minutes. After her speech, Sierra was surrounded by well-wishers and donors. But one person hung back, waiting. When the crowd thinned, Natasha Sterling stepped forward. Sierra tensed immediately. Damien, who'd been nearby, moved closer protectively. "Mrs. Cross," Natasha said, her voice softer than Sierra had ever heard. "May I speak with you? Privately." Sierra looked at Damien, who nodded. "I'll be right outside if you need me." Once they were alone, Natasha's polished facade cracked. "I owe you an apology," she said. "Several, actually." Sierra crossed her arms. "I'm listening. I exposed Damien's contract marriages to hurt him. I wanted revenge for my own guilt." Natasha's voice wavered. "When I left him at that altar, I told myself he'd get over it. That he was strong and successful and would be fine. I never looked back to see what I'd actually done to him." "You broke him," Sierra said quietly. "I did. And instead of facing that, I buried it. Moved on with my life. Married someone else, divorced, built my career. And then I saw him with you at that gala, looking actually happy for the first time in years, and She wiped her eyes. "I wanted to destroy that. Because if he could heal and move on, then I had to face what I'd done to him." "So you leaked the story?" "Yes. And in doing so, I hurt you too. You didn't deserve that. You were already a victim of his abuse. You didn't need me piling on." Natasha took a shaky breath. "I saw your speech tonight. Saw what you and Damien have built together. And I realized, you're what he needed all along. Someone who could match his strength. Who could survive him and then help him become better." "I didn't help him become better. He did that himself. But you gave him a reason to try. That's more than I ever did." Natasha's voice broke. "I'm sorry, Sierra. For weaponizing his past. For trying to destroy your relationship. For everything." Sierra studied her for a long moment. "I don't forgive you. Not yet. But I appreciate the apology. That's more than I deserve." Natasha turned to leave, then stopped. "For what it's worth, the way he looks at you. That's real love. The kind I never gave him. The kind he never could have been with me." She smiled sadly. "Take care of each other." After she left, Damien came back in. "You okay?" "Yeah. That was unexpected." "What did she say?" "She apologized. Took accountability." Sierra leaned against him. "Seems like everyone's doing therapy these days." Damien laughed, wrapping his arms around her. "It's the new CrossFit." Later that night, back at home, Damien and Sierra tucked in the twins. Marcus was already half asleep, clutching his favorite stuffed dinosaur. Damien pulled the blanket up to his chin. "Did you have fun tonight, buddy?" Hum. Grandma Diane let me have 2 desserts. Of course she did, Damien said, smiling. Sleep well, Marcus. I love you. Love you, Daddy. In Diana's room, she was wide awake, bouncing on her bed. Diana, it's bedtime, Sierra said, trying not to laugh. But I'm not tired. Yes, you are. You just don't know it yet. Damien sat on the edge of her bed. How about a story? The princess one. Again. But he was already opening the book. Once upon a time. Halfway through, Diana interrupted. Daddy. Yes, princess. Why was Mama crying at the party? Damien and Sierra exchanged glances. Those were happy tears, Sierra explained, smoothing Diana's curls. Mama was telling a story about how our family came to be. How did our family come to be? Damien's chest tightened. How could he explain this to a 5-year-old? Well, he started carefully. Daddy wasn't always a good person. I made mistakes. Hurt people. But then I met your mama, and she helped me become better. And then we fell in love, and then we had you and Marcus. So Mama saved you? In a way, yes. Like a superhero. Sierra laughed. Sure, baby. Like a superhero. I want to be a superhero when I grow up. You already are, Damien said, kissing her forehead. Now sleep, superhero. You have school tomorrow. Diana finally settled down, her eyes drooping. Love you, Mama. Love you, Daddy. Love you too, baby girl. Later, Damien and Sierra collapsed on their bed, exhausted but content. We did it, Sierra said. Another successful gala. Another year of the foundation growing. And 2 kids who are somehow still alive despite our parenting attempts, Damien added. Sierra swatted his arm. You're an amazing father. Stop selling yourself short. I had a panic attack in Dr. Torres's office last week because I raised my voice at Marcus. You raised your voice because he was about to touch the hot stove. That's called protecting him, not abusing him. But what if? Damien. Sierra turned to face him fully. Listen to me. In 5 years of parenting, you have never, not once, hurt those children. You've been patient, kind, present. You correct yourself when you slip into old patterns. You apologize when you mess up. You're not your father. You're not even the man you were 7 years ago. Sometimes I still can't believe this is my life. That I get to wake up next to you. That I have 2 perfect kids. That I get to do meaningful work with the foundation. His voice cracked. I don't deserve this happiness. Stop saying that. You earned it. Through years of hard work and accountability and choosing better every single day. She kissed him softly. You deserve this. We deserve this. They lay in comfortable silence for a while. You know what I was thinking about tonight? Damien said. During your speech. What? 7 years ago, I stood at a courthouse and married you planning to destroy you. And tonight, I watched you give a speech that's going to change thousands of lives. I watched our children sleep safely in their beds. I watched your mother, healthy and vibrant, laugh with our friends. His voice broke. You turned my worst into our best. And I will spend the rest of my life being grateful for that. Sierra was crying now. We did it together. You chose to heal. I chose to trust that healing. And we built this impossible, beautiful thing from the worst beginning imaginable. I love you, Sierra Williams Cross. More than I ever thought I could love anyone. I love you too. All of you. The broken parts and the healed parts. The scared parts and the strong parts. All of it. They fell asleep wrapped in each other's arms, 2 people who'd survived hell and built heaven together. Malibu Beach House, anniversary celebration. Sierra stood on the deck of their Malibu Beach house, the same one where Damien had proposed for real all those years ago, watching the sunset paint the sky in pinks and golds. It was their 15th wedding anniversary. Well, 15th anniversary of their contract marriage. 10th anniversary of their real one. They celebrated both now, a reminder of how far they'd come. Behind her, the house was full of family and friends. Diane, now 64 and still cancer-free, was playing a board game with Marcus and Diana, now 10 years old and full of personality. Marcus had inherited Damien's intensity but Sierra's kindness. He wanted to be an engineer, was already building elaborate structures from whatever materials he could find. Diana had Sierra's creativity and Damien's drive. She painted constantly, her work covering every wall of the house that Sierra's didn't already occupy. Jasmine was there with her husband and 2 kids. Julian and his family. Carmen, who'd become like an aunt to the twins. Dr. Torres and Dr. Kim, who'd become close friends over the years. Even Maria, Catherine, and Jade, all of whom had become important parts of their extended family through the foundation work. Damien came up behind Sierra, wrapping his arms around her waist. "Penny, for your thoughts." Just thinking about how impossible this all seemed once. Which part? The healing? The real marriage? The kids? The foundation? All of it. She leaned back against him. 15 years ago, I signed a contract thinking I was selling my soul to save my mother. And look what came from that. Worst beginning. Best middle and ending. They stood in comfortable silence, watching the waves. "Do you ever regret it?" Damien asked quietly. "The first year. What you went through." Sierra thought about it carefully. "I regret the pain, the fear, the trauma. But regret all of it? No. Because it led to this. To us. To them." She gestured toward the house where their children's laughter rang out. "I wouldn't change the ending, so I can't regret the beginning. Even the parts where I was a monster? Even those. Because they showed me what real change looks like. What redemption looks like." She turned in his arms. "You know what the most beautiful part is?" "What?" "Watching our kids grow up with a father who is gentle and present and asks permission before hugging them. Watching them never have to fear you. Never have to wonder if you'll hurt them." Her voice thickened. "You broke the cycle, Damien. You became what your father never was. We broke it together." "Yeah, we did." Marcus ran out onto the deck. "Mom, Dad, Grandma says it's time for cake." "We'll be right there, buddy," Damien said. Diana appeared too. "Are you guys being mushy again?" "Yes," Sierra said, pulling her daughter into a hug. "We're being very mushy." "Gross," Diana said, but she was smiling. "Come on. The cake is chocolate." Inside, everyone gathered around as Diane brought out a beautiful cake decorated with 15 years in frosting. Julian stood, raising his glass. "I'd like to make a toast." Everyone quieted. 15 years ago, my brother did something I didn't agree with. He married a woman as part of a business arrangement, and I thought he was making a terrible mistake. Julian looked at Damien and Sierra. "I was right. It was a terrible idea. Terrible beginning. Terrible first few months." Damien grimaced, but Sierra squeezed his hand. But then something miraculous happened. My brother, who I thought was too broken to heal, started doing the work. And this incredible woman, he nodded to Sierra, chose to believe in that healing. Together, they built something beautiful from something ugly. They showed all of us that people can change. That love can survive trauma. That broken people can become whole. He raised his glass higher. To Damien and Sierra. To 15 years of growth, healing, and impossible love. To the best parents Marcus and Diana could ask for. To proof that redemption is real. To Damien and Sierra. Everyone echoed. Sierra wiped tears from her eyes as Damien kissed her temple. "Speech," someone called out. Damien stood, pulling Sierra up with him. "I'll keep this short. 15 years ago, I married this woman for all the wrong reasons. I saw her as a transaction. A target. A way to feel powerful." The room was silent. But she survived me. And in surviving me, she showed me what I'd become. She gave me a choice, stay a monster or do the work to become a man. His voice cracked. I chose the work. And it was the hardest thing I've ever done. Therapy, accountability, facing my demons, all of it was brutal. He looked at Sierra. But it was worth it. Because it gave me this. A real marriage. A real family. A real life. Sierra didn't save me, I had to save myself. But she gave me a reason to try. He raised his glass. To my wife. My partner. My best friend. The strongest person I know. Thank you for choosing me. Every single day. For 15 years. The room erupted in applause. Later that night, after everyone had gone home, Damien and Sierra tucked in the twins one last time. Marcus yawned. Daddy, why did Uncle Julian say you and Mom had a bad beginning? Damien sat on the edge of his son's bed, choosing his words carefully. Because when Mom and I first got married, I wasn't a good husband. I was hurt from things in my past, and I hurt her because of it. Like when I'm mad about something and I mean to Diana? Sort of like that, but bigger. Much bigger. Did you say sorry? Yes. Many, many times. And I went to therapy to learn how to be better. And Mom forgave you. Eventually. But I had to earn that forgiveness by changing who I was. Marcus thought about this. I think that's brave. Saying sorry when you mess up big. Damien's throat tightened. Thanks, buddy. Now sleep. School tomorrow. Love you, Dad. Love you too, son. In Diana's room, she was already drifting off when Sierra kissed her forehead. Mama. Diana's voice was sleepy. Yes, baby. I want to be like you when I grow up. Strong and kind. Sierra's heart swelled. You already are, sweetheart. You already are. Late that night, Damien and Sierra sat on their bedroom balcony overlooking the ocean, wrapped in blankets, sharing the last of the anniversary wine. You know what I realized today? Sierra said. What? We've been married twice as long in our real marriage as we were in the contract one. The good years outnumber the bad now. And growing every day. They sat in comfortable silence, listening to the waves. Do you ever think about what would have happened if I hadn't changed? Damien asked. If I'd stayed the person I was. Sometimes. But you did change. That's what matters. Why did you give me that chance? After everything I did to you, why didn't you just take the money and run? Sierra thought about it. Honestly? At first, it was partially trauma bonding. Partially hope that the good parts of you could become all of you. Partially watching you actually do the work instead of just talking about it. She turned to face him. But mostly? I saw myself in you. I saw someone broken who was trying desperately to survive. And I thought, if we're both broken, maybe we can figure out how to heal together. And we did. We did. She smiled. Best decision I ever made. Even better than marrying me for money the first time? Especially better than that. They laughed, the sound carrying out over the ocean. 15 years later, the Williams Cross Foundation Gala. 25-year-old Marcus Cross stood at the podium at the Williams Cross Foundation's 20th annual gala. My parents' story is unconventional, he said to the packed ballroom. It's not a fairy tale. It's messy and complicated and started with abuse and desperation. Beside him, his sister Diana nodded. But it's also a story about healing. About accountability. About two broken people who chose to become whole together. Marcus smiled. And because of their choice, because my father chose therapy over pride, because my mother chose trust over fear, this foundation exists. And thousands of families have been helped. In the audience, Damien and Sierra sat hand in hand, both in their 50s now, still deeply in love. Diane, at 74, sat beside them, healthy and vibrant, surrounded by grandchildren, Marcus and Diana, plus Julian's 3 kids. My parents taught me that your worst doesn't define you, your response to it does, Diana added. That change is possible. That love can survive anything if both people are willing to do the work. Marcus raised his glass. To Damien and Sierra Cross. To 25 years of marriage. To breaking cycles. To building something beautiful from broken pieces. To Damien and Sierra, the room echoed. Later, on the drive home, Sierra rested her head on Damien's shoulder. We did good, didn't we? She said. We did amazing. He kissed her hair. 2 kids who are changing the world. A foundation that's helped tens of thousands of families. A marriage that's lasted 25 years and counting. Not bad for a contract that was supposed to last 12 months. Best contract I ever signed. Even though you signed it planning to hurt me? Especially because of that. Because it taught me that our intentions don't matter as much as our actions. And my actions for the past 23 years have been choosing you. Sierra lifted her head to kiss him. 23 more? How about forever? Deal. That night, lying in bed in their Pacific Palisades home, the same one they bought 20 years ago when they decided to start fresh, Damien and Sierra talked about everything and nothing. You know what I'm grateful for? Damien said. What? That you didn't give up on me when I was unlovable. That you saw something in me worth saving. You saved yourself, Damien. I just witnessed it. No. You gave me a reason to try. You and the kids and the life we built. You gave me something worth healing for. Sierra snuggled closer. Do you ever regret the path we took? Wish it had been easier. Every day. I wish I'd been better from the start. Wish you hadn't suffered. Wish those first months could be erased. He tightened his arms around her. But I can't change the past. I can only honor it by being better every day going forward. And you are. You have been. For 23 years. They fell asleep like that, wrapped in each other, two people who'd survived the impossible and built something beautiful from the ashes.